So, hello everybody. Welcome to this fifth knowledge day of the Rotterdamse Dakendagen. This is the first time we do it in English, but it still stays the Rotterdamse Dakendagen. I know that everybody knows that it's about rooftops today. We're going to try to give you a wider perspective on rooftops today. We're going to give you an inspirational roller coaster. That means a lot of things are happening in a very short time. We have 12 speakers in a few hours. So we have 12 workshops that we're going to attend with you. And we're going to talk about everything: the architecture of rooftops, the biodiversity of rooftops, connecting rooftops, mapping rooftops, new rooftops plans, sharing of rooftops, water retention. We're going to make you sick of rooftops at the end of the day. You never want to see one again. Or you may be so inspired that you never will come off. But, of course, we're going to kick off with an official opening. And official openings you do with important people. We're very happy to have an Elderman of the city of Rotterdam today here with us. And that's not an easy thing because they're not available. No, there are so many who are about rooftops in Rotterdam. Because we have a very wide perspective on rooftops in Rotterdam. We have one Elderman, for example, who is about sustainability, air quality, and energy transition. That's nice, we should have him. He knows about rooftops. Or we have an Elderman for building, living, the energy transition of the built environment. Energy transition of the built environment. Yeah, he should be here. But they can't all be here, because we here have the one who has public space, green, and water. That's also important. Can I have a very warm welcome for Bert Wijbenga? Does it work?
I hope it works.
Do I need to ask you any questions, or are you just off?
Well, one question could be, are there more Eldermen involved?
Are there more Eldermen involved?
Yes, of course.
Which one?
The Elderman for economy. Because we have to prepare all those rooftops, and it will provide a lot of work for the construction companies, for example. Right? And we have a finance Elderman, and he has to give the money to subsidize it. So it's
education,
it's a team
perhaps?
effort, Léon. It's
okay.
a team effort.
Well, tell us all about your effort, because there are great ambitions.
Okay, I love that. Good morning, everybody. Some people from very near here, some people from other cities, and some people from other countries also. I hope you're all awake and not too tired of the trip. There's a guy from London even here. Welcome. There's people from Antwerp. Where are they? Antwerp. Hey, Antwerp. Hoi. Hartelijk welkom, vriendelijke zuiderburen. There is a delegation from Faro, also here. Yeah, Faro. Quite far, Antwerp, Faro. Yeah. I was remaining them for last, because who is coming from the farthest distance? The people from Seoul. Hello, Seoul. Hi. Did I forget, Léon, one of the guests that are from far? I think we covered. Göteborg. Hier kommer jag till Göteborg. Nou, hartstikke mooi. Oh, Göteborg. Nicosia, in a very hot and humid circumstances, you're trying to make roofs greener and better, and maybe a little bit on both sides of the island. Well, we wish you good luck with that. Wow, what an audience, what a view. The only problem is now that you have to listen to me. Thank you, Léon. I compliment you for being a Rotterdam entrepreneur with so much idealism and so much organizational talent, and in the end you still survive, so you make a little bit of money of it. Compliments for what you do. And thank you for having me here today. I'm very glad to be able to perform the opening of the Knowledge Day on rooftops. And the Rotterdamse Dakendagen have been organizing this for the last 5 years already, so it's sort of a jubilee as well. It has grown to become one of the highlights in the June month of architecture we celebrate here each year. I'm standing here a little bit relieved because 2 hours ago I was on a rooftop opening the green making it green, and I was tied to a steel cord because they didn't want me to fall off the roof. And if I would fall, my fall would have been broken by the cord. That wouldn't be nice though, because it was very tight around my body. I survived it. It was a great moment because, you know, we can talk about rooftops and green and sustainability. And here in Rotterdam, we have a very nice saying, we should do it. No words, but deeds. No words, but action. And that is very nice to see that every month we see roofs becoming greener. And what a wonderful thing that is. In this year, you chose to broaden the scope from the national level to a broader perspective. For the first time, Kennisdag, as we know it, has changed to Knowledge Day in English. And so we can invite all those wonderful people from abroad here. The city of Rotterdam applauds this greatly because we see the importance of international cooperation. We seek international partnerships to overcome the challenges we face. We participate in the C40 network, for example, which works on climate challenges. My colleague Bonte has participated in that. And we participate also in the 100 resilient cities, maybe other cities here as well, to improve the resilience of cities. The coming years, we will start hosting several international knowledge hubs. I will mention two, we're quite proud of it. The United Nations Center on Climate Adaptation, it was rewarded to Rotterdam and Groningen, I must admit, also Groningen, which is very much north. So it's such a long trip, the most people stay in Rotterdam. But we will open this center next year with Ban Ki-moon, which is one of the main characters in this. Also, the Bill Gates Foundation and Bill Gates participate in that. Also, one of the highest-ranking people from, I think, the World Trade Bank or something. But also, sometimes people find that interesting, Leonardo DiCaprio. He was quite a famous figure in the years. Is he still? Leonardo DiCaprio? Yeah, still, yeah. No comment. The other thing is the mobility campus will start, which will focus on intermodality between forms of transportation, and of course, we want to be able to keep the people moving. But with our growing city and higher density in the city, it's a challenge. So we need to be smart in mobility, and this campus will, of course, help us in that. Rooftops have a similar potential. As you might know, Rotterdam has over 18 million square meters, or 18 square kilometers of flat roofs. Impressive. One guest told me what to do with the roofs. Shall we use it for solar energy, or shall we use it for green? Well, with 18 million, I should say, let's do both. 9 million each, and we're one generation further, Léon. So there is enough roof for all these things we want on our roofs. A huge amount of space, and often not used yet. Rooftops provide us with space for many ambitions we have, and it's already there. Interesting is that we're now in a building which was designed, I think, 60 years ago, Léon, this building, 60 years or 70 years ago, and with a sort of future vision in mind. The roof was already part of the design. So the architect said, I make a building, and the roof is part of that. Wow. So many architects after him have forgotten that, and we have to get that back. we will continue with what has been started maybe 10 years ago to focus on rooftops. There are many things now that can be combined in that. And that's maybe the reason, Léon, why so many aldermen are interested in that. Because as a team, we have some focus points, and like automatically, we see all those things get together on the roofs. A main thing is the water storage, because when there's a huge rainfall, we have problems with our sewage, with our drainage, and so when buildings can store their own rainfall, it will help the city a lot to not become flooded. Paul, here is Paul. Paul is a council member of the Waterschap in Holland, and that is the oldest institute of the state, and it concerns itself with keeping our feet dry. So he is very much in favor of green roofs as well, because all the roofs we make green will help us be ready for waterfall and not get water flood. Another thing is the green roofs help us for the air quality, because carbon remission is stimulated by that. Another thing is that the green roofs will keep the insects in the city alive. And I know insects can be a drag, but we need them. We need them for our survival. And it's wonderful to see that with every step we make the city greener, we see the insects getting a normal position in the biodiversity of city life. Last but not least is that not all the roofs, but many roofs can be a space to hang out, to have fun, or to have an event or whatever. So I will finish my words to you. I hope you understand that this is one of the many cities that want to focus on rooftops, because it is a huge part of our space, and we should not neglect it. We can make our cities sustainable, our cities more eventful, more healthy, by making those rooftops a good and green part of the city. And it's great that so many people who love rooftops, who are specialists in rooftops, get together and exchange the best ideas, because it's not easy. It's not easy. It is a lot of work and fixing puzzles, but in the end, with every roof we will provide, we see people get happier for living in the city. Léon and Geest, I wish you the best conference and good luck. Thank you.
Wait one moment, because we have an official opening thing, because you said already that this roof was used in a way that not many other roofs are used, and we find that very important. And one thing we asked is, okay, why is it that so many architects forget that? Because you had Le Corbusier, he had rules, he said something, he was really fond of roofs. Le Corbusier, but not everyone has roofs. So we asked someone who knows about it. We asked Sereh there. She is an architect, but she's also a writer. She was one of the founders of Vers Beton.
Okay.
And which translates itself to Fresh Concrete, and that's our online magazine about Rotterdam and further. And she also works in she's a researcher at the Technical University at Delft at the chair of interior building cities. That's a lot of information. And I found it very exciting to ask her to write an essay about roofs in a kind of architectural, historical context. And it's exactly on what you mentioned. I didn't know that you were going to mention it, that some architects forget about it. And you get the first booklet from Sereh.
Hey,
Tada,
Sereh.
opening.
Hey, dankjewel dame. Ik ga lekker naar je luisteren. Geweldig, mooi dat je dat werk doet.
So, and the other nice thing is, everybody gets a booklet like this. We have for everybody a booklet, and it's the nice also. It's in Dutch, but it's also in English. So we are not only smart cities, we also have smart booklets. Thank you, Bert Wijbenga. Then we're gonna let down the screen. Yeah, there it goes. In a few hours, we will get the view back. And we have the workshops on the rooftop, so...
I'm sorry for taking away the view, but I hope to show you some other perspectives. And so I'm standing here because I had the honor of writing an essay to accompany this festival. And I started from a curiosity about the experience of the roof, because I was wondering, why is it always such an attraction to get onto an urban roof? And it's always an adventure to feel yourself to become part of the skyline, or to be able to peek over the edge of the roof, as if you had somehow surfaced from something that you were embedded in all along and didn't really know. I quickly found that the attraction of the roof is not in any way a modern desire. This, for example, is the ziggurat of Ur, built around the 21st century before Christ. And the ziggurats were religious buildings whose raised platforms were intended to connect heaven and earth. So it makes them the earliest known accessible roofs, where the roofs were in fact the raison d'être of the whole construction, a raised platform with which the Mesopotamians were connected to the heavens. And then 16 centuries later, Nebuchadnezzar II, king of Babylon, commissioned the construction of a series of gigantic terraces that have come to be known as the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And he built them as a gift to his wife, Amitis, who missed the mountainous landscape of her homeland. And on the ascending series of terraces, gardens were laid out with a wide variety of trees and plants, as you can see. So one could say the first green roof in history. So a desire for the roof can be found far on the other side of our calendar. But I didn't only look back, I also went onto some contemporary Rotterdam roofs. And Léon took me onto the roof of the Rotterdam, for example, a complex designed by OMA. That has been a dominant addition to the skyline of Rotterdam since 2013. And it's quite a weird one, actually, as far as roof goes, because it doesn't really offer you a view of the city, as you can see. But it does something else. The only visible elements are the cut-off tops of two neighboring towers. One, the Maas Tower with the Deloitte, as you can see here, and on the other side, the New Orleans, a residential tower. And they sort of appear above the edge of the balustrade, like a kind of ornament on the horizon. And this reminded me of a different roof that we can no longer visit, unfortunately, but one that lives on in photographs and descriptions. And it's this one. It's on top of a penthouse of Charles de Bijstegui in Paris. And he was a kind of eccentric multimillionaire who gave a commission to the Swiss-French architect Le Corbusier and his partner Pierre Jeanneret to transform the penthouse he had bought in central Paris. And he wanted it not for something as banal as to live in, but as a décor de fête, as a place for parties and to impress his circle of cosmopolitan friends. And the climax of the apartment was this space, the roof terrace. And this is where you could have a view of the entire city of Paris. But Le Corbusier designed the space as a chambre à ciel ouvert, a room that opens up to the sky. The walls block the view of the city, but not everything. A few monuments appear above the edge, such as the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe. They seem to sort of sit on a shelf like miniature works of art. And it's quite an unusual roof, but it's quite exciting, as you can see. Sort of a place of theater, and its echoes resound on the roof of the Rotterdam. And so once one gets to know the oeuvre of Le Corbusier and his collaborators, it becomes clear that the architecture of the roof has always been important to him. He explicitly formulated the potential of the roof in his writing, and he illustrated it in his extensive oeuvre in very diverse ways. And so therefore Le Corbusier became a guide in exploring the possibilities of the flat roof and the ways that they have been translated into architecture. And I've summarized these possibilities of the roof that I found as follows. They offer the possibility to reclaim nature within the city. It reestablishes our relationship with the horizon, and it offers a kind of freedom, both in terms of architecture and in how it is used. And I'll show you a few examples in which these ideas come to the fore. Le Corbusier expressed his ideas about the roof in 1927 in his Modernist manifesto, The 5 Points of a New Architecture. And one of these 5 points was Les Trois Jardins, the roof gardens. And in his view, these are an ideal synthesis of what is pleasant and what is necessary. A roof garden protects the roof construction, and at the same time, making use of the roof means using the regaining the space that the building occupies on the ground in the city. And its architectural possibilities, furthermore, make it potentially the best place in the building. He writes, it becomes an authentic architectural event, a carrier of charm and poetry, a magnificent free luxury. The roof terrace as a place for repair, not only of the surface the building covers, but also of the nature that existed there before it had to make way for the city. And the roof of Le Corbusier's own apartment, as you can see here, nature is not controlled, but wild and autonomous, and growth is dictated by nothing else but the sun and the rain. Here on the roof garden, the visitor of the roof is no longer in charge, but a silent observer of natural process of evolution. And in a sea of glass, steel, and reinforced concrete, the roof belongs to the realm of nature. But that's not the only thing the roof can accomplish. What it also does is to once again make visible the horizon that we lost while we were embedded below in the city. Le Corbusier was all too aware of this, and all his architecture explicitly relates to the horizon. But he did not settle for simply showing the view. His buildings sort of take a position, and their relationship to the horizon is never neutral, but also always something that can be consciously designed. In the Wijbenga apartment in Paris that I showed before, Le Corbusier shows himself to be a master of manipulation. And while the roof of Le Corbusier's apartment that we just saw introduces wild nature, here he follows a different strategy. Nature is still present, as you can see, but this time it is represented by perfectly straight hedges, by shrubs trimmed as spirals, and by a neat lawn. The wilderness has given way to an artificial, theatrical landscape. But the greatest theater of all still is the view of the city. At the highest level, Le Corbusier deliberately blocks the panorama and makes the marble balustrade the boundary from which the landscape can be read. Here he shows Paris as he wants to show it, his idea of the city, a flat skyline from which the most valuable architectural treasures protrude. On the roof, the city is staged to create an idealized image of Paris. In that way, the roof offers a form of escape by offering the opportunity to see the horizon in our increasingly densely built-up cities. But, as Le Corbusier demonstrates, that is not all. It also gives us the opportunity to manipulate this experience and turn it into a theatrical moment. This theatrical escape from the everyday manifests itself not only in the view from the roof, but also in the way that we can use roofs. Because sometimes things are possible on the roof that aren't possible elsewhere. And New York offers a striking illustration of this freedom of the roof. And there are many examples to be given, but I will show you one, which are the rooftop theaters of the end of the 19th century. These were theaters mounted on rooftops of existing and of new theaters to offer comfortable entertainment during the very hot summers. And in 1882, the first one opened its doors on top of the Casino Theater, once you can see behind me. And soon neighboring theaters followed this example, like the American Theater, the New York Theater, or the Paradise Roof Garden at the Victoria and Republican Theater, a kind of airborne village with a pond, a Dutch farm, and a Parisian windmill, for good measure populated with farmers, milkmaids, and a selection of farm animals during opening hours. So these were sort of totally fantastic architectures that no longer had anything to do with the street or with the buildings on which they stood. They promised a new form of collective pleasure and kind of frivolous escape from the city at eye level. They not only offered this magical setting, the entertainment was groundbreaking as well. So here they experimented with what was then considered vulgar entertainment, such as vaudeville and variety shows. So these roofs were places where the previously unacceptable was allowed. Things that could never have taken place in the closed theater halls, but which, once they had proven their success, regularly found their way to the roofs, from the roofs to the mainstream entertainment downstairs. Le Corbusier's design for a residential building in Marseille, the Unité d'Habitation from 1952, reveals a similar view of the roof as a kind of liberated microcosm. Unlike the previous roofs that we saw, this is a collective roof, and the apartments in the building itself are focused on individual life, but the roof offers the residents a space of communality. And Le Corbusier filled it with a kindergarten, swimming pool, a gym, a solarium, a cafeteria, and a running track all the way around. And a lot comes together on this roof. Nature is represented by irregularly shaped concrete hills, playground equipment for the children who populate the roof, and they look as big as the equally erratic hills on the horizon. As in previous projects, the high parapet around the roof limits the view of the city and draws attention to the hills around Marseille in the distance. At the same time, it is also a miniature city, offering a maximum density of experience in a limited space. And in this way, the Unité offers a kind of synthesis of all that a flat roof has to offer to city dwellers. The roof as a place where we can experience nature, wild, tamed, or artificial, and subject to whatever weather conditions prevail. A space that brings us in relation to our environment, by restoring the view of the city and of the horizon, and a place of freedom and experimentation, both for the architecture and for its users. Considering all these possibilities and qualities of the urban roof, one might conclude that we can also interpret the roof as an ID, in the same way that public space represents an ID, as well as the sum of a series of concrete places. An ID about a place full of imagination and poetry, an authentic architectural event, which gives us space within the city for a different relationship to the horizon, to nature, and to each other. Thank you very much.
Wow. You can imagine I was very impressed when I read all this, and it's so much information, so much nice pictures, and you can all read it. In the end, we tempt you to stay the whole way, and you have to if you want to get the booklet. And in the end, we open the curtain, and Sereh and I will be there giving you the booklets. So this was quite amazing. Another quite amazing thing was that in... Where are those? Oh. It's somewhere there, yeah. There it is. What was quite amazing that I got an email this spring from Korea, and it looked a bit like spam. Okay. So, but there was a website, there was something about rooftops, and I thought, okay, let's check that Facebook page. Well, then you still don't know anything, of course, but the picture in the top, that's really intriguing. It intrigued me because it looked like people had real plans for real buildings. And the next post was this real advertisement for a festival, and I did Google Translate in my Facebook page, and it said, yeah, we have this spring celebration on the rooftop, and rooftops. So I thought if Eskimos have many words for snow, maybe in Korea they have many words for rooftops. So those guys must be filled with good ideas about rooftops. And when I saw this one, I thought, well, these are our brothers in making nice festivals on rooftops, making rooftops sexy. We have to get those guys. So I emailed back. They were very enthusiastic. We got on Skype, which also was on their Facebook. I don't know what they say about me, but in the end, they were so enthusiastic, they came over here. So I'm very proud to announce you, and I'm not going to pronounce his name. He's going to do that, because I've tried it and it doesn't work. The last bit is his first name. That's Jun. And I want to present him on stage from the Seoul Innovation Park. Oh, sorry, that's my bit. Oh. Okay.
Thank you for inviting me to the beautiful city of Rotterdam, and congratulations on the 5th commemorate event. I would like to express my deepest thanks and gratitude on Léon and Marianne. Is that right? Marianne. Sorry. Yeah. Who helped me to get acquainted with a lot of valued people. I currently living in Seoul, the biggest metropolitan area of South Korea, located within the continent of Asia. I would like to tell you about activity I have been involved in so far. So primarily aim at designing rooftop in the compact city with a population of as many as 10 million, and also providing a place of rest to people looking to restore their daily life. The project started from social problem in South Korea's capital of Seoul. The problems include many hours of working, poverty of elderly, poor social welfare, and a low birth rate. What kind of life have we had? How many people and friends will be there for us when we have a hard time? What kind of future can the young design in this environment? Can Koreans band together and lead a life as a community? What about space in the city? Apartments become the common housing type without spaces shaped by vehicle, and the amount of park area per capita has decreased. While urban residential environment has been deteriorated, we need a kind of niche to rest the daily life in the city. And the potential demand began to appear as the way people spend money. In the meantime, rooftop began the site of mischievous behavior among the teenagers, and building manager could do nothing but close them down, even though they should be left open according to the Fire Safety Act. To deal with such problems, the Social Innovation Center, where I come from, I decided to open 8 rooftops in the Seoul Innovation Park without conditions. Following discussion with the Seoul Metropolitan Government and to release the store to the public. Lots of support, but the result, as empty as the rooftop, had been buried for 2 months. That was because most people visiting thought that it was a funding project. After putting in a lot of thought, we decided to invite the public to help us in solving the problem. At first, young people hosting open house party were interested in the rooftops, and general awareness of these places started to gradually increase in follow free dance workshop and DJ parties. One day, after 1 dozen parties, someone came and asked me, "Is the daily life that you want to promote?" And this was an important question. It was important to make the rooftops more well-known, but what was more important was make them accessible to the public during the routine of daily life. So we decided to live our daily life on the rooftops, not just utilizing the space for hosting festivals and events. We ate together, did some exercise, playing games, singing, painting, reading, and slept there during the hot summer nights. As you can see in the picture, the small meeting consists of 5 to 10 members, just like a family. We then started to see more surrounding as well as changes in nature and our neighbors. The rooftop spaces was recognized as the place, and naturally the public started to show interest in renting it out more open than before. We held first birthday parties with the local residents and play with the foreigners living in Seoul. Camped with the neighborhood students and cooking Korean traditional food done together while using the fire pot that inventors had made. The public then grew autonomous, presenting various ideas about the rooftops. 동영상 2분 정도 있어야 되는데. It's okay. Yeah. As a result, the organization Rooftop Station was created by young people, and it essentially promotes itself receiving funding from the outside. The goal of Rooftop Station is to achieve their sustainability and to change all rooftops of Seoul into Rooftop Station. Lastly, I'd like to show you an article. A while ago, a small wedding was held on the rooftop. That made me think that the rooftop is substituting for madang, the traditional Korean yard. In the madang, Korean ancestors had greet guests, prepare food, and hosting big events just like a wedding. A madang was later a public space rather than a private one, and a community space for meeting neighborhood and communicating with them. In Korea, where people struggle to live in urban area, the rooftop has become like that of a madang that symbolizes a space of hope, restoring their daily life and raising their community spirit. Why don't you support this activity in a city in East Asia? The rooftop station are open to foreigners, such rooftop station on Facebook, and give me your support. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. They're also hosting a workshop, so if you want to know more and think with them and what they can do more, please join their workshop. Thank you very much. And of course, they're going to be here all weekend to see all the things we do here on the rooftops. I'm so enthusiastic about everyone we have here. It's all so different. This was a whole different thing than Sereh does. We now get a whole different thing as what we did before. It's yeah, I wanted to go there. This is what we do in Rotterdam as it goes about green. This is our most famous international known rooftop, the Dakakker. We tried to do a lavender field last year, which as here it rained, the next day it was 30 degrees. That's not good for lavender. But we did our best to build a lavender field. This is in the central of the city on top of the Bijenkorf. We always had a campsite where people are in the green. This was a bit of artificial green, but still green. Another artificial green in the city with fake sheep, but we also had live pigs on the roofs in Rotterdam, the west side, very close to where I live, this actually. But this is not really green. Who can tell us all about really green was the guy who was introduced to me by someone from the municipality, Evelien Bronsdijk. She said to me, if you want to talk green, you got to talk Dusty Gedge, because he's the guy who knows everything. It's a bit of a crazy guy, but he's very enthusiastic. I said, we like enthusiastic guy, just like me. Can I welcome to stage Dusty Gedge.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to... Shall I use this one? I'll use this one, yeah. Hi, yeah, my name's Dusty Gedge, and he's going to find my presentation. And I do know a lot about green roofs because I've been doing it since 1999. And I've put a little slide in which will come in a moment because I got a feeling that Léon, and several other people in here are of a similar bent from back in the 80s. But I decided that I'd do this one, this little presentation. There's a lot in this. First thing I must say, the gentleman from Seoul, I won't try to pronounce his name, speaking in a second language, which is my language, is very hard, and also the lady before from Dutch. So I'd like to celebrate because I speak very fast English and you may not understand me. So I might have to slow down because it is my native language. This is Nature on the Edge. I did this in Ireland for the Irish Garden Association. That's me. I'm the one on the right-hand side, and that's because I got involved in this as an activist, and I'm now a president of the European Federation. But you can't take the punk out of the president, so, you know. But we know all this. Your alderman has said that. But I'm about nature, and I'm about real nature. I'm not about some kind of product nature. And I'm not going to read all those things out because I got involved in this to actually put nature onto roofs. And I just want to bring up the European agenda. I know I'm from the UK, but there is a thing called the EU, and I quite like it. This is polluted, but 75% of the European population will live in cities. And down below is an Australian landscape architect wrote that. In the future, we'll design cities for nature and the countryside for people. It's just a thought. Yeah, because we design cities for people, and the kind of, you know, it's a thought. And we have all these things going on in Europe, and Rotterdam suffering from them. So I wanted to highlight that. But this is my life. I'm from the seaside, and these are tough places. And this is where I start to think about nature on green roofs. And they're tough places, and I'm a bird watcher, and this is a bird that you have a lot of in the Netherlands. And I would like to see these on roofs because they do nest on roofs in the United States of America. And we have all these plants that actually grow in tough places. And they are native to my country. They're native to the Netherlands because much of your plant community is here. And that's a harebell. I think it's beautiful. But 22 years ago, it was very, very hard to get anybody to put that plant up on a green roof. And I want to bring this up because this is where I got very involved in this. Most of our interesting wildlife in the United Kingdom is on post-industrial landscapes. And it's actually, there's a quote in a a national newspaper is that they're the Amazon jungle of the English countryside. Old power stations, yeah. And so when they were trying, this is actually in Sweden, actually this is in Malmo, this is a quarry, which goes back 3 million years, and it's the highest biodiversity hotspot in Malmo. It's a quarry. So this is what I was doing. I had a certain bird that I wanted to put on a roof because they were going to build on all the land in my neighbourhood. That's Battersea Power Station, Pink Floyd. And this bird, it's called the black redstart, was what got me involved in this. And so everything I did was to try and replicate all that horrible, ugly land on a roof. You can imagine an architect looking at me going like, you're really stupid, Dusty. Yeah. So we had this idea that we'd do a thing called a brown roof. And it was a really dumb thing. And I have to tell you this because it is very dumb. We learnt this later. You put concrete on a roof, it's not a good idea because it doesn't store any water. But because you make a mistake, you learn a lot. And the trouble is a lot of people don't want to make mistakes. And then I happened to go to Switzerland, and this is the roof that didn't get into the National Geographic magazine because it looked like a desert. But it actually works, this roof. It's still there. It's 20 years old, and it functions. But this is my starting point. And so I made contact with a guy called Dr. Stefan Brunison in Switzerland, who is the only person to study biodiversity on green roofs. And this is the Hochsbahnhof in Zurich. This is a green roof, and it's designed for a lizard. And, you know, green roofs are very exposed to the wind, exposed to the sun, and they should be low nutrient. There's a German saying, if you're a green roofer, don't work with gardeners. They put soil in things, you know. And there's this wonderful roof that I adore this roof, yeah. And they also take this idea down to the tram lines now in Zurich. They do their tram lines like this. They don't make them very green. This is for ecology, which I think that makes me happy. And so they took this idea that they would use their own soils, what they call alluvial gravels, and put them on the roof and make these wonderful green roofs for wildlife. So I took this idea back to London, and of course they said, oh, they can do that in Switzerland, but we have a thing called the British Empire. We know how to build buildings. You can't do that here. Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah. So we actually set up a PhD, which was the second PhD, to study these roofs to see what they did. And at the time, the only kind of green roof you could get in the United Kingdom was this very lightweight system. And enough said on that. There's a lot of that still going on in places. But the point for me is if you want to design and bring nature into the city and you do it from an engineering point of view or a product point of view, you will get a product. You won't get an ecological landscape, which is what I want, is an ecological landscape. And so this nature on the edge is about restorative behavior. And the word here is biodiversity. And diversity in cities is a good thing. Diversity on a roof is a good thing, which will become apparent as we go through this. And it's really interesting, this. If you can see, there's a green line across this one. This is the EU project I was involved in. This is 2006 in the city of Linz. It's greener on the other side because it was done by a landscape gardener. The roof failed, and by then the Austrians had some standards, and the one that's not so green is an industrial green roof. It's just interesting, that. And that's why I like that picture. Yeah. Now, to cut to the quick, biodiversity, as the Swiss London approach, is based upon spiders. Because spiders are tigers. And if you've got lots of different spiders, you've got a biodiverse roof. And that is the basic principle of it. You don't have to worry about it. So you have higher mounds because you have web-making spiders. You have lower areas because you have ambush spiders. And that's the principle, yeah? Now, in the construction industry, flat is good. Bumpy is bad. Yeah, that's a bumpy roof. Yeah. And so we took these ideas. You can get this presentation. You can Google. This is a Bug Life Green Roof Guide. Louis, can you bring up the magazine that's on the seat? Because I forgot for my Dutch colleagues, I've got to do something. If you quickly, because you actually have one now in Dutch. And you can come to me afterwards. You can look at it. It's all about biodiversity on nature roofs, which the New Green Deal has published. And I've done my duty there for my Dutch colleagues, yeah. So, you know, in the construction industry, we get this seed and workhorse, but what we want is wildflowers. And it was really hard. But, you know, what was really interesting, this is the Alderman, is function is best. What's the environmental performance you want? Not aesthetics. aesthetics comes later. And we're trying to push with my federation to get performance as the key. And you have to really believe this, and there's some interesting work going on in Toronto. If you design for biodiversity, you design for all the other benefits, because you get more substrate, you get more plant structures, you get more water storage, and it works because it's diverse root systems. And so we took this, I'm going to quick because I know we've got to catch up. So this is a standard green roof that was used to be installed in London. And this is a big legal firm. They said, can you make it more biodiverse? So we did all these things. This is 12, 14 years ago. And this roof is like this now. And we can't compete with Rotterdam in terms of the number of visitors, but this roof is open in next weekend, and it has 5,000 people visit this roof every year. And they're really proud of it. And they stopped irrigating it, and they stay. These are lawyers. They say, this is for spiders. My roof is for spiders. Yeah. And this is another one. This is PwC, a big accountancy firm. Again, they inherited a very basic green roof, and this is what it looked like in 2014. And what we've got to understand is people want, once you put it on a roof, everybody says it's got to be green all the time. And you had a heat wave last year like we did. Yeah? Okay, so this is it, you know, in a normal May, June, okay? Lots of lovely flowers that you get out in the dock, and this is another part of the roof. And then last year, this is the middle of the drought. This is the middle of the drought. And this is towards the end of the drought. But I told them, don't irrigate it. It's a robust system, yeah? And this was it last weekend. And it's very late this year because it's been very cold, and I think it's the same here. But it's functioning. It's a natural landscape. Let it be a natural landscape. And you can also, and you have this interest in Rotterdam in yellow roofs, and your alderman said you've got 9 million solar, 9 million green roofs. No, you need 18 million biosolar roofs. Because we did a European project, we do this, you combine the two. And they actually make the solar panels work more efficiently. And from a biodiversity point of view, you create two microhabitats under the panel and in front of the panel because it's wetter. And you know, this is the Olympic Park. It met all the biodiversity targets, this particular green roof I designed for the London Olympics. It's got all of them. And but you can do it wrong. And this is where the sexy solar takes over from the green roof. And they sort of shove the green roof around the solar panels. And no energy is made on this roof if it's done not properly. And my federation members actually know how to do that. And this is one that's recently put in. Now, very, very quickly, because I get really interested in things, and hopefully this will play. Oh, it's not playing. Anyway, nobody's actually done this, and I have asked a lot of people, and I've got some people here from Faro who are probably interested in solar. That solar panel there, I have calculated on the back of a cigarette packet, I do smoke, produces 3 litres of water a day in the morning. That is condensation. Now that's interesting. A solar roof produces energy, produces water, produces biodiversity. We're connecting some things going on here. And I'm looking, oh, there it is. I love dripping water off solar panels. I like watching paint dry. You know, I'm very sad. But it's 3 litres, because all I did is I went, what's the condensation rate in the United Kingdom in London? And it says, and I went, right, that's 1 metre. It's 3 litres. Yeah, every day. That's a lot of water. And I'm interested because I'm in in Holland. I hope I'm not insulted anybody by saying that. I'm in Holland. And you have a lot of water. And you have a lot of wetlands. I'm going to go to the Biesbosch on the Sunday. And I'd like to see some wetland roofs. Yeah, this is the wetland roof on the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. That one's actually in Switzerland. And you can do this. And actually, we've got these smart roofs which can store water in plastic trays. But why don't we store the water on the surface? And I was thinking for Léon, he might like this. It's an idea for you. Let's have a car park roof covered in water and people can go canoeing on it. Well, no, I reckon Léon likes that idea, yeah. And I just want to show you this. This is a wetland roof. They took this idea from the United Kingdom and Switzerland. In Malmo, I saw this last week. It's a wetland roof, and it's storing lots of water. And so there it is again. And I've been involved with Antwerp here. I just quickly wanted to show you this because I've got involved in this project. We're taking water from neighbouring roofs onto this roof. We're going to retrofit a green roof on there. And it's going to have a wetland, you know. And, you know, we got solar panels, and so the water's going to go into the wetland. So we're really thinking about how we can use other buildings around, to come here. And I just want to celebrate Antwerp because they've got this STAD 2050 and they've got 4 or 5 other projects which other people are involved in, and they're here talking about that later on. Yeah, and there's the roof that I've designed there for them. But I'm also interested, could Rotterdam become a carbon sink on roofs? That material up in the right-hand corner is carbonate. It stores, 1 metric ton of that stores minus 285 kgs of carbon dioxide. We can use it on a green roof as a substrate. It's a little bit heavier. There's a lot of carbon dioxide. And because of our friends from Faro, down below is a cork drainage insulation board which has been tested in Lisbon at the Institute and works as polystyrene insulation, but is a drainage board as well. That stores, I can't remember exactly how much, a lot of carbon. So we could become carbon sinks on our green roofs. I'm going to skip through these because I know time is short. But I just want to highlight IKEA. These are little bike sheds. I think every single little roof, which I'll be talking about tomorrow, should be green too. And let's green them for biodiversity. I've published a report this year, which Rotterdam is in. It's the most up-to-date green roof report. It has all global policies, European policies. My federation published it. I like to celebrate that. And we've been doing a lot of mapping. And this is Greater London. And we have all these roofs. In 10 years, we've delivered 1.6 million square metres. We're not quite as good as Rotterdam. We're 0.19 metres square per citizen, and you're 0.37. But we don't have any money to give. And there are some wonderful, this is an orchid meadow in Switzerland on a roof. And this is a roof in Edmonton, Canada. And this is in New York. And I just went to the roof last night and saw where people from New York went, and I can see a video of how I can connect the two cities now. And obviously I was here last year. But I want to finish up because, you know, roofs are also for people. I used to be a community theatre person, so I work with people. I concentrate on spiders these days. And this is a wonderful thing. This is the 120 Fenchurch Street station. This is the first roof that was open to the public. And we now have a regulation in the City of London that all roofs should be open to the public. All green roofs should be open to the public. And it opened in February, and there it is. And there's birds that feed on this green wall called greenfinches, which I hope go to that roof because I like biodiversity. And I'll skip that, actually. And there's the roof, and there's my partner. And IKEA opened in late February. That's now open to the public. And it's delivered for biodiversity, but the people can go on it. And there was some people last weekend. And that brings me to here, because actually it's really fantastic when I found out about this thing, that there's 2 festivals in the world, I believe, maybe 3 now, because I forgot about Seoul. There's Amsterdam and there's Rotterdam, that actually open up their roofs to citizens in a grand scale. We do it a little bit in London. And I think we need a London roof weekend, so we're going to get Léon on to come and organise it, yeah? I've done the Dutch Biodiversity Guide. Thank you very much. I hope that's helpful. I'm doing a workshop later.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wait, Dusty. I forgot also with the CEO, because I'm so enthusiastic about everything you do. We, of course, have a Rotterdam rooftop book by Esther Winy, who is sitting here in front, still writing. She's always writing. And she wrote this. This is for you. I'm going to give that to the people from Seoul also. Was this enthusiastic or was this amazing? Thank you very much. So next we're going to the workshops because you're probably hungry. And we have thought up with something. We were there, we're now going there, I think. Because we have to thank, of course, our sponsors. Everything, those amazing guests from abroad, they're not here for nothing. We have people supporting us in that. Thank you very much for that. Oh, this was the wrong one. Sorry. It's my glasses. Lunch workshops, that's the right one. We call them workshops. They're actually not workshops. We just see them more as lunch roundtable conversations. We don't have leaders in the workshop. We just invited a few interesting people. We put them together. We have 12 workshops. If there's a workshop where no one else comes, those 2 people have an interesting conversation. So there's still knowledge exchange. So we can't fail. We have interesting conversations. We have downstairs, you saw them already, you could have, where is it? Somewhere. There are notes with the different workshops. You can get one, and that's for us to see that there are not 40 people in one workshop and 2 people in the other. So please spread a bit. I'm going through them. Of course, we have Seoul. We connected him with Martin from the Green Rooftop Program in Rotterdam, and Gerda Zijlstra, who's also, she's from Rotterdamse Oost, a local network, and she has done a lot of activation like they did in Seoul. We have the people from Faro here, and they're starting up a European rooftop network. So we have also people from Amsterdam here, and we have Cedric, who is really into the whole European networking community. We have green city rooftops. We have people from Milan here. Of course, also, again, the Green Rooftop Program from the city of Rotterdam. We have the Elderman of Urbanism from the city of Faro. And Milan, they're connected to the Clever Cities project, which is a European project. Inge can tell you all about it in this lunch roundtable conversation. We have political rooftops. Marina will do a presentation later, but it's a really nice discussion that we're gonna have here because she's from Nicosia. There's a wall there. When you're higher up, there's no wall anymore. And what could rooftops be in this broader sense? We're gonna talk about it during lunch, but she's gonna give a presentation also. And Sereh is gonna join her with her broad view, as you saw. We have, of course, water retention. Kees Anton van den Dol from the Metropolder Company and Yuri from the het waterschap. It was mentioned before, we still don't know what. Is there an English translation? Waterboard. Waterboard? Really? It's the waterboard. Sorry. But it's serious business. So. Of course, we also need to stimulate the use of rooftops. I've mentioned Evelyn Bronsdijk. She's doing the green rooftop gospel around all the world. And Greet is doing it in Antwerp. And she's very nice programs from the municipality to stimulate real estate owners to green their roofs. Join that conversation. Number 6. It's a bit like the Eurovision Song Festival. But then nicer. And we don't have Madonna, of course. Living on rooftops. We are now busy for a few years with living on rooftop experiments. It's now been led by René, who's been living on a rooftop for a year now, and Laurens. And Emiel Arends is here. He's the spatial advisor of urban development in the city of Rotterdam. And he knows all about how we can really make that work, I hope. A new rooftop trail. People from Crinsum and from the Independent School for the City, they have a really nice old Maaskant building on, I think, 300 meters from here. And they have a plan to do a trail from their building over 7 other buildings towards the Dakakker. And we're going to make that work. I think next year it will be ready. But first we have to start with this lunch conversation. Martin Barry is with them. He's also one of the speakers tonight. And I think they're really going to connect. The National Rooftop Plan. We used to have a Green Deal, green rooftops. Annemarie and Carleen were our rooftop heroes last year for doing really good work, which is not always seen, but is really important. And we're now switching from the Green Deal, green rooftops to a National Rooftop Plan. Last year, the whole thing about financial incentives was our most popular and also appreciated workshop. So you have a second chance to join this one. Dusty, of course, is here, but also with Rens de Boer. He was yesterday on Langs de Lijn with us on the radio talking about biodiversity in Rotterdam. The Office for City Nature actually discovered on a new rooftop in Rotterdam a new wasp species some months ago. So there's really going something on. Dimfy Brouwer, I like that very much. She is graduated on the city chicken, and one of her things is that chickens should be also on the roofs, of course. And we have Sef Hermans from BTL, who has written Handreiking Biodiversity. Sorry for the Dutch. But interesting people joining Dusty in his enthusiasm. 11, we have rooftop data. Data is a really big thing. Jeroen and Roel have both companies who are handling that and having really smart ways of mapping the city and see where the potential for solar lies. And we have the big rooftop projects. One project from Rotterdam, the 7 Square Endeavour. Jan-Henk Tichelaar from Rooftop Revolution participates in the Resilio project, a European project. And we have Celine Dohogne here, who is the European project leader of a project of which he's going to tell all about after the lunch. So, which one are you going to pick? It's very easy. You go down, you pick a number, you pick also your lunch. People will guide you to the roof because, of course, we will eat and discuss on the roofs. And all the project leaders have like these kind of things. And then you see this is one. You just walk behind one and see where it ends. I think everything goes well. I see you in, now, about somewhat more than an hour. As you know, not all roofs are good for or can hold green or people or even solar panels. And we want to do other things with it. And sometimes we can persuade the owners to do something different. One thing I came across were 2 French artists, and they paint sleeping giants on roofs all over the world. When I heard about it, I thought, okay, that's something I want to do, and I want that in the south of Rotterdam. South of Rotterdam is the other part of the other end of the river, and lots of people here in the north think that the southern part is not as good as the northern part, but there are sleeping giants lying there. There are lots of kids who think they can't get a job because they have a different back name or things like that. That's not an English word, back name, but I think you know what I mean. And I want to say, no, the real sleeping giants of this city are laying in the south of Rotterdam. So I asked the painters to come over, and they painted this really beautiful giant who is sleeping there with his... It's like a bird, and he's ready to fly out and do his thing in the city. This is a swimming pool in the south of Rotterdam, and it looks like this. And it's really beautiful, and it's also we were also supported by this by the climate adaptive initiative from the city of Rotterdam, because we're actually painting black roof white, which is good for the heat stress, as you know. This is the one lying on the Maas silo next to the river. She's ready for the next battle, the artist said, and it's lying like this. If you like it, we have postcards of this, and it's at the venue where we have our opening at the end of the day. So when you go there, or you go there tomorrow, you can find postcards there at our merchandise. Merchandise, rooftop merchandise, yeah, we have it. But back to serious business. We had a whole variety of things already. One, like I said, not all rooftops have to be very crowded. One rooftop that wasn't, one workshop that wasn't very crowded was the workshop with the big projects, because maybe it sometimes is boring, but they told me, well, it was a very good discussion because we were only with the 4 of us and we had could really interact with each other. But I think they are really interesting projects. And we have one woman here from Belgium, and I want to present to you Celine Dohogne. I didn't even ask you, do I say it right? Oh, it's right, Celine Dohogne. She's going to tell us all about her European project, where she's project leader of. May I have a warm welcome. Oh, yes, no, I'll put it. Yeah, you know, you use it, but I have to.
Okay, sorry. So hello everyone, I'm Celine Dohogne from the cluster Eco Construction. It will in the construction sector with ecological materials. So I'm here because I'm the project manager of the GROOF project for the Wallonia region in Belgium. So I'm going to start with the project. So what is GROOF? So the idea here is to build a greenhouse on your roof to reduce your carbon impact. As we all know, reducing greenhouse gas emission is really important in our society, especially to fight global warming. And we think that the construction sector has a major role to play in this great battle. And so GROOF is like greenhouses to reduce CO2 on roofs. So in this context, European countries have committed themselves to this project. We are 60% funding of total cost by the Interreg Northwest Europe program, and the total project budget is like 4.88 million. So this project is like an innovative cross-sectoral approach. So like I said, to reduce CO2 emissions, we actually are really, we point especially the construction and agricultural sectors, because we think that sharing energy is really important, as well as local food production. So, like I said, we are 11 partners from France, Belgium, Germany, Spain, and Luxembourg. Our lead partners are from Luxembourg. So the Council of Economic Development of the construction sector. As you may see, that's all the logos from our partner. And we think that actually, how can I say that? Yes. So the great target of our project is actually to recover the heat produced and not consumed by the building actively by the ventilation and heating system, and of course passively, because we know that 30% waste heat through the roofs on average, and in a plant production. So reduces heat and CO2 emission in the support building. We want also share energy flows for more efficiency. We want to collect, by the way, CO2 produced by the people and building activities, like to feed the plant that we are going to grow on the rooftop. We want also to reduce CO2 emissions from transport by producing the plants locally. Another really important purpose of the project is actually to create a community surrounding the rooftop greenhouses, because we had a really interesting discussion during the lunch workshop. We realized that it's really important to involve all the stakeholders in order to make those kind of project really successful. Another point that is really important for us is actually learning and sharing all the knowledge we're gonna have all along the project. We are the three main objectives in order to think about sustainability, durability, is because today the projects in the project GROOF, we're gonna implement 4 demonstrators. We call them pilots. I'm gonna talk about them after that. In France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germany, because we really want to demonstrate the technical feasibility and the profitability of these rooftop greenhouses. Of course, the idea of tomorrow is that we want to support rooftop greenhouses projects that's gonna be carried in the Northwest Europe zone, because that's the zone we are limited inside this Interreg European project. And of course, we have we need to make the effort sustainable. So in this way, we're gonna identify the barriers, but also the opportunities at legal, financial, and technical level to implement those kind of greenhouses. So I'm going to talk about the first pilot here from our partner EFSB. So that's going to be in Luxembourg, Bettenburg, more exactly. This rooftop greenhouse is going to be built on office building. It's going to be 40 meters. Come on, these are meters, square meters, sorry. And it's going to be business oriented. Actually, the heating system will be coupled to the building and increase the full load hours of said system. There's going to be also a rainwater collection system supplying to toilets in the building, which will be used for greenhouse irrigation. EFSB is in contact with the local conventional farmer who will high quality, high price tomatoes as a luxury product. So we are in Luxembourg. Hello, we have also the pilots EBF, that's our German partner. That's mine, how can I say that, my favorite project. Because, so it's gonna be located in Berstadt. The rooftop greenhouse is gonna be on horticulture packing hall for 80 square meters, and they're gonna showcase and research. That's gonna be their orientation. So EBF. So like I said, the building will be. So the rooftop we're gonna be will be built on rooftop, but of the packing hall. Of a company nursery. So the nursery is very old and run down from the previous owner, and now gets a complete overhaul. With the use of a combined heat and power engine run by biogas, the nursery will be the first to produce food with a negative CO2 footprint. The rooftop greenhouse will be at Sunlight Greenhouse, a new invention from EBF. And the greenhouse will be implemented in the heat cycle of the site and will serve as solar collector in the transition periods. So this project is really interesting because they are gonna really put in place some activities to sensibilize the population and all the stakeholders around them. So the other pilots is going to be in Belgium, in the University of Liège. So it's going to be like more research oriented for the Department of Urban Plant Pathology laboratory. So it will use a highly transparent film to create equal growing conditions. The building of the university has enormous cooling capabilities, which is also used in winter. So the greenhouses can use waste heat of the cooling units in winter for heating the greenhouse. The last pilot is going to be in France, Les Jardins de Galie. So it's going to be also business oriented. Ici, so here the greenhouse will be built on the top of a newly installed office building and will be therefore directly implemented into the building process and the technical systems. The heating and cooling of the greenhouse will be directly coupled to the units in the office building. An interesting aspect of these pilots is that the irrigation water will serve as heat reservoir in winter and cooling this reservoir in summer, and will be therefore supplying a heat pump. So we have also, how can I say that, the interest to create a guideline, because it's really important not only to have the money to create some those kind of projects, but what is the long-term aspect. So we're gonna mainly here create a guideline in order to disseminate our experience. So because within the guideline we're gonna identify, we're gonna make we're going to highlight the identification of the barriers and opportunities, the keys of success. We also made concretely already, how can I say that, we cooperate with existing European rooftop greenhouses because it's really important to highlight what is already done now in order to highlight the key of success and to not to make the same mistake, if I can say that in this way, in order to how can I say that, to use the existing knowledge and to build something with that. So it was really important for us to make cooperation with the existing rooftop greenhouses. We have also done a state-of-the-art analysis in collaboration with local entities to determine the regulatory context, the building context and the urban farming context in the zone of our project. And what we are actually doing now is like an open call. So another way to disseminate our experience is actually to make an open call. What is an open call in the GROOF project? Is actually that we are looking for rooftop greenhouses project carries in the Northwest Europe zone. The applications are being collected through this open call, and it will end by June 30. So if you know anybody of you, if you have a project like this, don't hesitate to come talk to me after, because we are really looking for new project like this, because it is important for us to share with the people all the expertise we're gonna have, and we already have during this project. So the selected candidates will receive a feasibility study performed by the GROOF experts on their specific project. This approach aims at fostering the development of rooftop greenhouses with CO2 emission reduction, that is really important, purpose in Northwest Europe zone. And because I think we think it's really important to show the advantage of those kind of use of rooftop by design and create greenhouses rooftop. So voilà, thank you very much. I don't know if I have time left or not, maybe for a little video.
How little is little?
1 minute?
1 minute, yeah, come on.
I don't know if it was... I don't know if it worked. No, it doesn't work. Sorry. So I had a really nice video to show you, but it doesn't work because it's...
No, I don't think it...
No, it works on the PowerPoint.
But for you, I have also this Rotterdam rooftop book.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm very proud to say... this is somewhat more square meters than we do, but we also have 2 glass houses, but they're only 20 square meters on rooftops now, and we use them not for growing food, but for sleeping. Because when you're in a glass house, you have a really beautiful view when you're in your bed, when you're on the top of the roof. That was our approach, but this is a really nice open call. Next on the mic. I told you about the whole email I got from Korea, and that I was a bit surprised. I was also very much surprised when I got an email from Nicosia. I had to think, oh, Nicosia, what was it again? Nicosia was in Cyprus, yes, and it was the thing with the wall, Greek side, Turkish side. I wasn't convinced immediately, but this time I could understand the email. It was very eloquent and clear, and I asked, okay, do you have some examples? What do you want to talk about? And the woman that gave me the mail sent me some pictures, and I was completely sold at picture free. She's going to show it, and I think you're going to be very enthusiastic too. Can I have a really warm welcome for Marina Kariakou?
Thank you very much for Léon and everybody who invited me here, and Marielle for your help to share my story. And I always have to begin with a little bit of context on Cyprus, because it's an island a bit far away from the rest of Europe, so yeah. So Cyprus is an island in the East Mediterranean, which is located at the crossroad of 3 continents. And it has a unique and turbulent history because of its geographic location. Since 1974, the island is divided in 2. The south part is part of the European Union. It's where the Greek community, Orthodox community live. And the northern part is where the Muslim Turkish-speaking community. So the buffer zone is controlled by the United Nations, and the other gray zones that you see are British overseas territories. The green line, this is the name of the border that splits the island in 2, it makes the Nicosia the last divided capital in the world. And it's a historical city with an old fortification, but even though it seems so round and perfectly complete on top, in reality, it's brutally split in 2. So this is the kind of images that we have on the ground level. Barriers, discontinuity of the pedestrian network. Here they try to make it a bit more comfortable. They put a bench, some greenery. And so this also shows how absurd this barrier is, because the park that is on top of the bastion is on the Turkish side, and the lady walking her dog is on the Greek side. So this spatial segregation of the 2 communities and the impact it has on the environment pushed a group of urban enthusiasts to create an organization called the Urban Gorillas. This is Photoshop. We don't look so scary. Yeah, so this NGO is very active on activating public spaces and transforming them into lively hubs. We do that through pilot projects. We use bottom-up techniques, low cost but high impact, to bring people together. Last year we published a book based on a festival we did, and we generally used events and festival as a framework to do research. And here we published the research about the lack of public spaces, the lack of quality and quantity of public spaces. And one of the findings was that people in Nicosia especially, because of the division and because it's not a coastal city like the rest of the cities, we lack a reference to the horizon, and people need spaces where they can breathe, and they can have this freedom of continuation because of that wall that is there. So we thought maybe these are the spaces that we need to look over the wall, the public spaces that could be created, maybe on the rooftops. So we said, okay, let's go on the rooftop to get a higher perspective. And up there, the barrier starts to dissolve. The mosque and the church are united in the same skyline. And we have a new vision of one unified city. So the last couple of years, we have been working and thinking of ways to uplift Nicosia and to create a new horizontal layer of communication and a level of connection between the 2 halves, and at the same time take advantage of the unused space that we have on top of buildings. And we think it's an idea with a lot of potential, since we have 320 days of sunshine per year, and we have lots of flat roofs because of that as well. And we need spaces for social interaction. And it's not that we don't care about the environment, it's just that we think it's the social element that is really missing, and the social interaction that is missing in Nicosia. It's the first direction to address, and then it can also be combined with all the ideas that other people presented about green roofs and more environmentally oriented projects. So one of the experiments we did was Incomunicado workshop, which involved open air screenings and research on both sides of the wall. And the first part was done in the streets. We had the question of how borders, national, regional, physical, and virtual, contribute in constructing stereotypes, and we tried to find ways to bypass them poetically. And the second part of the workshop was hosted on 2 rooftops, one on each side of the border, where we presented the results of that workshop. So we used Skype and walkie-talkies and flashing lights to communicate between the 2 rooftops. And we had dinner on the roof, and we temporarily reconnected both sides. So this was the first step, the first experiment we did. Last year, we wanted to move forward, so we adapted this project into the candidacy of Nicosia to become European Youth Capital for 2021. So during that procedure, we went rooftop hunting. So we identified some rooftops that are being used, and we approached the owners to join us in reconnecting and reusing the rooftops. But unfortunately, this proposal didn't get the funding, and we didn't get the title of the European Capital of Youth. But the whole process of setting up the project and the research we did for reclaiming the roofs gave us a lot of interesting findings, and we were able to identify the borders that we need to overcome, which are about ownership, national language barriers, financial, so many different kinds of borders that are not only the obvious ones, but others as well. So, but we needed to direct our attention away from these challenges and find a way to re-question our narrative about this. So the question now is mostly about how to involve people, sponsors, and authorities when they are not enthusiastic about doing bi-communal projects, bringing the 2 communities together. So we thought maybe if we integrate this idea into our already practice that we have, and we want to, for the next year, include the project of uplifting Nicosia into a festival, an annual festival that we have been doing, and it has an impact, and it was accepted by the community in the south of Nicosia, and to integrate it in a more subtle way. So the festival is funded by the Ministry of Education and Culture and the municipality of Nicosia, and last month we also applied for extra financial support from the Embassy of the Netherlands that is offering the Orange Tulip Fund, which is specifically for projects that enhance the cooperation between the 2 communities. So these are some numbers that show the impact of last year's Skymakli Festival that we did. And in this framework, we want to include also the uplifting Nicosia. Kaymakli is an area, it's a neighborhood of Nicosia that is divided by the buffer zone, and it looks like a traditional village trapped in the city. The neighborhood has a history of craftsmanship, and it has also the identity of being the dairy product industry area. So what we want to do is we want to make this project start from the ground floor, from the street, and then gradually go up on the roofs. So the first phase will be about using storytelling as a contemporary practice to highlight the tolerance and the understanding between the communities, and also enhance the sense of community, and really hear stories and record stories, untold or forgotten stories about the area, and then reveal really how the communities on both sides have things in common, and the heritage is already common. So we want to use this storytelling material that we will collect as the material that artists from both sides will use to produce socially engaged art projects. And they will create installations on both sides of the border. So the idea is really to do this using participatory techniques and engage community on both sides out of the context of the gallery or a museum, and really be with them in the neighborhood, start listening to their stories, their lives, and find a way artistically to also involve them in the project and take what's happening in the street to the higher level. So Uplifting Nicosia is a project that aims to give stage to the local inhabitants from both sides to share their heritage and find common grounds. Yeah, we want to give the opportunity for people to get a higher perspective on things. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, for you, I also have a book about Rotterdam rooftops. Thank you very much for coming here. Hope you have a very nice time. And I think people have questions and they can ask it to you after at the drinks. Thank you very much. Marina. So what to say about the next guest? Well, one thing I want to say is that I'm very happy that he's here. He's a friend of the festival. He was here before. He's in our advisory committee. He's committed to rooftops, and he has designed one of the most exhilarating rooftops in Rotterdam, if you ask me. This one, the Didden Village. People always ask me, is this Photoshop? And I have to say, no, this is not Photoshop. This is already lying here for 10 years, Winy? Yep, 10 years. It's really beautiful. It's even so beautiful that I committed myself to cleaning it to make it ready for the rooftop days. Winy is of course also the man who designed the stairs, who were here just in front of this building to get people up this roof. You can get up this roof, as you know, by an elevator anytime, but he brought the idea that maybe we shouldn't only make really great rooftops, but we should make really great entrances to the rooftops to attract people here. That was this big line. There were 300,000 people coming in 1 month to go to a rooftop, and the rooftop was there already for 70 years, but now they wanted to see it because he laid the stairs. We were really happy with that. With his architectural firm MVRDV, he's now busy with 3 big projects in Rotterdam, and they're being built or being built very soonly, and they all 3 have really nice roof gardens. This is my view, because I never know what Winy is gonna tell, and if you're going to show anything about this, or only about the future, or only about the past. We will see. Can I get a warm hand for Winy Maas? Wat voor aansluiting heb je? Deze heb ik. Oude. Heb je geen VGA of HDMI? Hier zit de VGA achter, denk ik. Mag ik die hebben? Ja. Okay. Sorry people for this short interruption. It's more my anarchy that is causing this. We asked him really polite to send it in front, but which I normally not do. So we knew that, but I think We're going to manage. Almost there. And we're live. Winy, the floor is yours.
Hey, nice to be back here. These are just Dutch words because I use them as an argumentation of today's gathering. As we are speaking, discussions both with the national government here and on other places if intensification makes sense or not. So when I talk about the necessity, I have to look a little bit to the programs that the Netherlands is facing. Will be 1 million people that will be moved in the coming time, and both from internal and from external reasons. And they will settle, or they want to settle, more or less in these 5 bigger cities in the Netherlands. They are still cute, these cities, but let's say that they are doing. That if I calculate it, that means about 75 million square meters of living and 15 of working, and don't count the other things. If I do that as the government is intending to request, then it means that I have to cover the complete central park of the Netherlands, 50 by 50 kilometers square, to make that possible. So it's obvious that it would, with the simple calculations of, say, towers, that it would help. There's an enormous discussion in the Netherlands. Richard Sennett was a bit like abused in Dutch press recently. And I called him and, Richard, what did you say? Did you say that high-rise is bad? No, I didn't say that. Well, the Dutch press is talking about that. And he said, no, that's not the case. Because, yeah, but you should have proven it. But now everybody's quoting you with your book. It's not in my book. No, it's correct. That's typically Dutch journalism. So if I go back for a moment to density, because density somehow helps. So these were diagrams at that moment about what can we do, kind of human, and I come back to that, say, density to force us away, to compare densities over the world. It's quite vintage, his book, but it's kind of nice to see already, say, the dreams that you guys are talking about and that I would like to contribute to. And there is a myth that needs to be somehow kind of to be explored in that way. And that was still this research by some students at the Rotterdamse Academie voor Bouwkunst that were proving that, say, with certain kind of typologies, and with respect on Dutch laws in terms of light and shadow, you would create rapidly higher densities in that way. That's what this graph says, and it will come to a standstill depending on the typologies. So still, I want to and I gave that to Richard. I said, so here you can prove now that density helps and that towers help better than to make it possible. But it's nice to see how far we are. And look, this is Dutch. These are Dutch cities, and they look, according to many citizens, overwhelming as it is. And just to make, if you compare it with, in this case, Asia, you see where is my neighborhood, which is called Rotterdam in this case. So high-rises somehow help, but costs, another question to tackle. And I just addressed it because you're talking about it also. So in simple terms, if suburbanism on the top, urbanity below, we have to compare infrastructure. Yes, I have to go to Gouda or to whatever place with a means of transport. I have to kill landbouw and have to agriculture, and I have to kill forests, which cost money, versus, say, the cost of lifts, balconies, bridges, and parks. And that's what you also want to... I want to see that research now quickly to be done by a group of people. Otherwise, we get again back into the archaeologies of our times. So that is what it is. Of course, we need to stress also the qualities, and this is a kind of shopping list that currently in our cities we are using. Also, grâce à vous, thank you to you, to the Dakendagen. But it's more. It's kind of a list that with this densification we need still. Social housing in that way, affordable startups to make it, to have green, light, wind, sun, views, energy everywhere, architecture, yes, it still exists, and intimacy, variety, where is it? We want to have individuality, freedom, please, is what instead of rules as such, safety, and other mobility. I think that's already happening. I mean, I think that the Dutch railways didn't do that bad the last 10 years, and that it becomes a little bit Swiss more and more, and a certain kind of inclusivity, if not, say, collective issues in it may. If I put that on any developer's list in that moment, as an urbanist, as a part of being supervisor in Eindhoven and Utrecht, and in Almere, then immediately, what does that cost? So that has an effect, and we cannot avoid that on our, say, ground policies. I know there are candidates that fell because of that, but we have to make these spreadsheets possible to understand what the making of the city is. And that's exactly what also the Dakendagen are there for, to address that, to get that kind of qualities involved. So what is next on this kind of, this is my basic message of you. And I saw you were photographing the list because it should go over the planet. You will be soon, you see it already especially in the towers in Eindhoven to be addressed. So I just want to illustrate it by, because I imagine that you would not show it, some examples in that way. But this is Shenzhen, and it's a funny exercise on, like you have context, and we decontextualize it. That's a kind of heavy element always in architectural terms, so you have to keep to the context. In this case, the context is so bad that you have to use the context basically to make the alternative. Basically, you cut the towers a little bit, you trim them, and then you stack them on top of each other over streets in that way, so that you can make a kind of, say, Chinese attempt to make this kind of vertical village come alive. And I'm happy that the speed is a bit faster than in the Netherlands, so that we can see that already soon to be tested. In Taipei, we try to make this kind of combination of cuteness and bigness and informality and formality in this exercise, that where smaller units are stacked on top of it. And and it is a pity that it was too expensive to make yet. So that is, I have to say that. But the good thing is that with a small scale jump, as we can maybe do it. So I think also for the Dakendagen, next year should be about a scale jump, is what we are trying to address, no? In that way. So Taipei, we won this competition around Christmas. We made this kind of stack of Christmas gifts, you can say, and that is to have 111 different boxes with each different, say, programs. Yes, the criterions of Taiwan are here scattered around, so that you don't have this kind of stupidity that you have one ticket and then you have to go into this huge box, but that you actually is mixed with other kind of elements. Contemporary technology can do that, so that is, I don't know if Pathé is here in the audience, but then I would like to have an other Pathé, please, in the next years in Rotterdam, and to address that with a huge amount of stairs. So I do two projects basically in this project. One is the 111 boxes that will be designed by 111 artists in that way. So the market hall was cute, but now to make somehow that we stage that and give voice to different kind of communication, and a lot of stairs. So that is again, they saw the pictures of Rotterdam and then they somehow accepted it. And then we're looking forward to the next, say, New Year's Eves in Taipei, because I for sure imagine that this can somehow give a kind of alternative of Times Square, which is actually a beautiful name, the Square of Times. And to have that addressed in an Asian manner is what it happens. And that all came because of the Dakendagen. So what is next? Rotterdam. Rotterdam does an effort to help for densification. I find it very courageous, and that is also nice that KCAP made this plan, this urban plan, and showed how we can live with lowness and bigness. Of course, we're not ready there. That's obvious. The plinth deserve a lot of quality still. So you can that's how to do that. And next, these are still kind of say solitude elements. So here, I think with the sucks, we try to do one attempt. Obviously, these are simple towers. And what can you add? You make an hotel, and then poof, you just add them in that direction. And then there's a first attempt to get that done in the next future. And yes, I'm very happy that with the new museum, which will show a kind of cracked reality of the reflection of Rotterdam, that will be, of course, contributed with this Fata Morgana on top. So next year we should have, and I invite you then also to be there. It will be open, by the way, day and night almost. So you with its own express lift, it will take you up through the museum. And I still love this kind of idea of the night at the museum. So that will be then every day and to be accessible for you all to get this kind of forest on top. The trees are there, not here yet, but they are in Brabant, and there will be soon. There will be a column of lorries coming down to Rotterdam to bring them in. For the moment, ships of mirrors are coming in from China, from Shenzhen, and the first are on Monday we'll discuss that and we'll see the press about that. Just a word about the trap, the stairs. This was the sketch. So you make this, and from wederopbouw naar tweederopbouw. Sorry for the Dutch word, for the second build-up after the war. And then I'm still proud that we, as an organization, together with the municipality, together with Abu Talib, and together with all the people, could manage to make these stairs. In times that there were riots on the squares, that is because of attacks. Station areas as considered as highly vulnerable in that way, and that we could have the opportunity to go there and to open it, to wait a little bit, to go further up to this kind of queues that has been showed, and to feel a kind of, say, almost like a celebration where we would like to go to what? To this, in that way. Oh, that's nice. If Pathé would have been done that, then there would be more people. And so, but again, that's what it is, and how it end up in. But it's a thin line. There's not more than that. What it wants to be. And yes, you look back. You have a good selfie points at that moment, and becomes Instagrammable. That's the new demand of every client these days in architecture. It should be Instagrammable. And the mayor was there, and Wim was there, and my wife was there, and we had a kind of nice looking back. And I still love the images. Also, what you do now with the painting on the roof. They have this great photographer here in town that helps us to understand what we are doing, and becomes ultimately maybe the urban poet. I would suggest him for that role in the nearby future to reflect on us. But I was happy, of course, with this kind of reactions. A lot of people, that it was built here next door, still there in this museum. That it's super cute. So it's and that it became a logo. It became chocolate. That it was a place to celebrate music, to hang out with hooligans at 9 o'clock in the morning, to marry, to show food products in that way, to have great fashion shows on that way next to Muslimas, and to have slides over there. It was a vulnerable operation, so yes, we had to deal not only with stairs, but also with cameras, with observation points, with doctors nearby, in case our health cannot work and deal with roofs in these days, thinner air, etc. And that happened, unfortunately, one time. So, but we were on time. Our organization managed to get this person, older man, to get him on time on the correct place to do it. So, what I'm still enjoy is what of course, the Huffington Post is together with some other magazines. Are for us an important tool to understand if we are doing okay. So you see it here, it's about Rotterdam, and then it says, with the stairs, it was a perfect excuse to visit the city, and one of the most underrated cities. Let's keep that slogan forever. That gives us the motor to make the next Dakendagen in that way. We are underrating everything we do. So what is next is still this sketches, that this is now gone. And I want to have it back. So there's a change of ownership in this building. So under discussion in that way, that this guy needs also something, that Wim would be great to have it. I'm still, and that's what we are actually discussing, to get this on board, and and that the mayor should also help. That I love the former buildings, but our Eindhoven colleague, is he in town, should help to make this bridge. That also the Vanelle could do something nice, that Jo can do something on his roof, so that my colleague there there would be more activated. Also in these other places that even hipsters, and that's maybe now happening with the MAD building, all can do that also on these places, and that we gradually can make a port van Zuid, or that the Holland-America line becomes cute, that Francine is helping, that this stupid terrace can become suddenly used, and I will give my market hall to anybody without any problems, or even this, I hope that say that my client there will accept that as she addressed on internet by herself. And then we can start to imagine about, here you see the first glimpses. Oh, to have these red lines to be thought about. Can we connect now? Can we make it one step further? The Dakendagen are cute, and yes, the painting is beautiful, but I need something. Because if you look later on the stage, what's going to happen, then you see this. And it's nice, it's a good starting point, you could say, and I love what the Schiebok has been doing with this yellow stuff below us, but maybe it can become gradually over there. Maybe we can do this. Maybe we can start to extend the yellow network, and maybe we can build it up with the new building programs that come over there. And then I am thinking about like a true 3D ski block at that moment that would like turn it into this kind of dream as such, where you are starting it. So this is my proposal for next year. Anyway, so I need still some finance to get that. So talk about it to these days to get it done. But I'm aware that we can do it in a kind of simpler way. That maybe we can already do this in that way. So these are the drawings that are available. These are then the destinations that we can start to paint. And then we can do already a mini version with that. And with that, I hope to contribute to your symposium a little bit and to stage the next speaker in that direction. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Winy. I'm almost doubting, but do you have the second print of the Rotterdamse Dakenboek already? Not yet. I was doubting, but it's so popular, it has its second print already in Dutch, the English, so that's really, really great. Esther is now somewhere else leading another symposium about high-rise, so we're all doing our contribution to the city. Winy, thank you very much. See you in tonight. He'll be at the party also, and I'll be there, of course. But it isn't a dream. Next year, we will do great things connecting rooftops. Of course, this year we have already the zip line on the place where you saw the people walking from the Bijenkorf to the other way. This weekend, this morning we threw a ball with how do you call it? A catapult. What's a catapult? No, not a caterpillar. A slingshot. We shot a ball with a little thread to the other side, and then a figure thread. And tomorrow people are hanging on it. And you are coming too, Winy, to go over the Koolsingel. Yeah, he doesn't dare, but he doesn't know it yet. Do I need a password, Marielle? She escaped. Oh, that's a pity. Can someone get her? Dusty? Because I think I need a password. But then I'll have to come up with something. Well, she's coming up. Just shout it. I'll. So that was Winy, and he's staying with us for a short while, and then he has to go to the dentist. Oh, that's also important. People do things like that. I'm always surprised about it. But about important people, our next speaker has to do something with this. Oh, no source found. Fuck. Oh, Winy took it. What is I always blame Winy. It works really good at home. It's coming? Yes. What is this? This is 5 years ago, our first knowledge day. And this is 30 people in one tent and 30 degrees, as you can see. And one guy demonstrating the water retention because we didn't know what it was. After that, he said, "Now you can imagine what it was." This was one of the guys of the rooftop doctors. They were silly guys, so we asked them. They want to do silly experiments. They walked around in white coats because they were doctors, and people thought they were funny, but they weren't funny. They were dead serious, and I'm very happy that they're still here, being serious, trying to heal the world. And but they're actually now going international. And that's why I asked them. Can I have a warm welcome for Friso? Klapwijk.
Thank you. Before I start off, I want to just one sentence about Nicosia. What a great story about how a rooftop can change your perspective on a city. And that's also my personal road trip over roofs the last 10 years. I'm an entrepreneur, so my story is a bit connected to the company I lead. We started out a company 10 years ago called the Duck Doctors, the Rooftop Doctors. And we did so greatly inspired by this artist and architect, Friedrich Hundertwasser, an Austrian architect. His statement was basically, every building we place on this earth, we basically take a bit of nature from earth. And if we build this building, we need to restore somehow the nature that we took away. So reclaim the roof is basically literally reclaiming what once was nature. So he inspired us to go out and change everything that is black and unused into something green and multifunctional and healthy. We didn't invent the concept of roof gardens. There have been companies for decades doing great stuff, but most of those companies focus on new buildings. And if you look at the city, 90% of the city is already there. So we built a company around transforming existing buildings. Roofs like this, people look out onto a rooftop of someone else, and we were working on not only the technical side, but also how do you get this done? I mean, this roof is not owned by this guy, but this is his view. So how do we change that? Still, 1/3 of the things we do is transforming existing roofs for residentials into a roof garden. So we don't build just a roof terrace, a bit of wood, a bit of fencing, and that's it. We want to try to bring real gardens to the city. We also do this for office buildings. Here you see a building in the south of Amsterdam, southwest of Amsterdam. A crazy design filled with jeux de boules, with chickens, with a pond, with places to have meetings and have lunch and dinner, connected to a restaurant. But also we try to move towards like small parks, the landscaping feeling. This is an office building where people have their lunch, their meetings outside, and it was once 2,000 square meters of black stony roof. Rooftop bars is a great place to see the city, to have a different vibe, or this hotel that basically has the entrance in a whole green environment. This is a project we did last year in The Hague. This is 100 square meters, but it's filled with vegetables, flowers, herbs, actually used in the kitchen by this great hotelier. World Trade Center The Hague, and there one of the things in all our projects is thinking and working with water. This roof garden harvests all the rainwater of the buildings around and controlled by what I get back later, the polder roof concept. So these are all things we have been building, and most of them, or all of them, were existing buildings. What we see right now is that we're moving from existing buildings to also new builds, because the green and water question is not just a salad on the side anymore. It is part of the whole demand. As you see in Winy's pictures, it is more than just place a green roof. Here you see that our water concept is integrated in the whole building design. As you can see here, also water is the foundation layer for all the rooftops. Green walls, And here you can see this is a great project it's actually building right now. Here we're gonna bring the dunes to Amsterdam to create a dune landscape on top of a building on the Groenmarkt. So core to in the story is I've been doing this for 10 years, and over time I more and more got convinced that we need to do something different with rainwater. And all our projects, we're working with rainwater. The crazy thing is, imagine you're a cloud. And you're up in the sky, you're filled with rain, and you're anxious to get it, to drip it. So you drip it on the forest, and the forest says, thank you. You drip it on the agricultural side, and the crops, and the farmer says, thank you. And then this same cloud hits the city, and we say, hey, what you're bearing is waste. We're gonna put it in a sewer system, we're gonna get rid of it as soon as possible. And if we really want to work and think of climate adaptation, we're dealing with stormwater issues, we're dealing with drought, we're dealing with heat stress. Rainwater is the best way if we could be able to store it and keep it on a roof. So that's 2 years ago, we brought it into this new venture, the Metropolder company. And I always need to explain a bit about the name Metropolder. Most people get the name Metro, but if you're not Dutch, you think, what is a polder? Well, this is a polder. This is basically how we build at Holland, for you who don't know. If you look at this image, you see a flat piece of land surrounded by a berm of land, a dike, controlled by a mill. Well, if you look closely at the city rooftops, our flat rooftops, it is basically a flat piece of land surrounded by a dike, a roof edge. The only thing we do is we add a mill. That's how we make polder roofs. The whole idea is really simple. Create a buffer zone. Create a layer where you can store water that drips on the roof and make it available for reuse. This storage layer can be the foundation layer for your solar panels, for your rooftop garden, for your deck, whatever you want to do on top of it, but make this space available. You cannot do it on a roof without any control. So you need to be able to control the water level on this rooftop. And to do so, you need a set of sensors. Temperature sensors, water height, temperature, everything. Having these sensors connected to the internet, you have a monitoring dashboard, and it gives you the ability to control it from a distance. And when then you look at a city district, if you could be able to connect all these roofs, Winy wants to make bridges, which is great and which we should definitely do, but you can also do it digitally and make sure that all the water that is in this neighborhood is available. The great stuff is this is cheaper than making a bigger sewer system, and it's also smarter because if you put it in a sewer system, it's still in a sewer system and it's still gone. If you store it, you can evaporate it, you can reuse it for grey-water use, anything. The only thing is you need to know where is your water and when. What we basically do is we create this mini water cycle on rooftops. The capillarity of the system makes it able to evaporate and make sure that the water is reused on the roof, and if not, you can use it in the building. Starting this process 5 years ago, it didn't stop there. What we see is if you start changing your paradigm and say, hey, rainwater is a resource, let's use it, then a whole set of opportunities opens. Not only in terms of what can you do, but also where can you do it. And I think that's why Léon wanted me on stage, because if you look at this world map and you see the density of the cities, you see some density here in Rotterdam and in Amsterdam, and of course there are some challenges here, but if you look at this on a wider scale, there's a lot going on in terms of density, in terms of climate adaptation, in terms of social aspects, as Nicosia showed us. We see working in Holland is nice, but it's also complex. There is a climate adaptation discussion. Yes, there is a lot to do. Yes, it's wise to store rainwater and to reuse it. But if you look at, for instance, cities as New York, where there is on a daily basis, every rain event causes combined sewer overflow, flushing human wastewater into the open water. It's crazy. It's about billions and billions of liters of wastewater into the open water systems, the canals and the rivers every year. So that's why we thought we'd bring our technology also to New York. And here you see our mill proudly shining in New York City during our opening event last April. Why New York? Well, first of all, we speak the language. It is a crazy country. It is so much different than Holland. But on the other hand, there's a lot going on that is in favor of our Dutch technology and our way of thinking. There's regulation. There is a lot of money available in grants, and not like a subsidy for 20%, but like co-funding of 80 to 100% of your projects. And the technology is way behind what we have here in Europe. This is the way US real estate developers solve their rainwater issues. You can imagine that we can do that a lot smarter. So my challenge here for you today is the following. First of all, enjoy the rooftop days, the Rotterdamse Dakendagen. But I also think that staying in this room, and I see many familiar faces, I would say to you, I think we need to step up and think a little bit bigger than what we're already doing. We're greatly inspired by Winy, who thinks like 10 times bigger than I do. But to all, as you sit here, I mean, if you listen to Winy's story, it's great, but it's also like there are not that many people that can accomplish that. But if we go out into the cities and wherever you're from, and think of how can we work with these existing buildings and how can we change that and start just go out and do it. That's the way we started. I mean, we know nothing. And we just started out building this company, and we wore white jackets, and people thought we were crazy. And Todd is there in the room, and he thought after 2 years those guys will be gone, and I'm still around, and we're having fun together. If you're here from a governmental side, I think we should step away from the pilot stage, and we should step away from let's subsidize this with 50K or 100K, 1,000K. I think we should 100K. Sorry. I think we should step up and really think into the core of our financial system. The question is, how are we going to finance climate adaptation? And I think that's about relocating money that now is being put into sewer systems. Let's put it on rooftops and use that space to create a real water retention zone. If you're an architect, don't use green as a salad on the side, but make it integral part of your whole design and make sure that you also think about water. I mean, having green on a roof without the knowledge and the ideas on water management, it's going to be a failure. So, and if you're here from the business side, don't stop innovating. Don't think, hey, those guys from Metropole, they have some idea. I think we need dozens of ideas upcoming years to keep pushing ourselves and keep pushing the architects, keep pushing the building owners, the building developers. We need smart people, and maybe not hire the next, maybe hire someone who is like way overqualified, just to get them on board and make sure you spend some money there to get into new ideas, because this doesn't stop today. We're only starting. I mean, there's only 1% of our rooftops has been transformed. We have still 99% to go. So thank you for listening, and hope you are a bit challenged.
Heb jij de tweede? Do you have the second print already? No, it's so fresh. It's here you go. Thank you very much. So everybody is really going international and thinking big. So we're going to think about data. And I'm going to ask, I don't have a really big introduction. The only introduction is that Paul van Roosmalen from the gemeente Rotterdam told me that we now have guys who are looking for potential of rooftop with drones. I said, okay, let's get that guy. And we called him, and he has a very interesting story to tell, and it's not only about drones. So the drone thing was, of course, also with the sleeping giants. But I think it's a really interesting story, so we asked him to come here. Can I have an applause for Jeroen van Swieten? From the other side. And we're live.
Well, thanks. Thank you for having me. Actually, it's not about drones at all, so apologies. I'm not an architect, I'm not a doctor. I don't know a lot about biodiversity, but I know, well, some things about AI and about data analytics. So I'll give a short introduction. I started the company Seoul 2.5 years ago, and we just thought, okay, bring together the smartest minds of the Netherlands, some boys and a couple of girls, and come up with new ideas. How can we use AI for good? I think you all heard about kunstmatige intelligentie or artificial intelligence before. A lot of things are going well, quite well. The self-driving cars, it's sort of an AI factory on its own. A lot of doctors, real doctors, well, not rooftop doctors, are using it by analyzing all kind of images. And we do the same, only on a macro scale, so on a city level. And I really think it's an illusion to think AI isn't gonna change city planning. It's a thing, it's sure. And it's already happening, I think. But it's really tough, because AI, well, most people don't really like it. They, if you ask 10 people here, I think 7 or 8 will prefer an advice by a real person, even if they know it's worse than the advice of the machine. So there are some challenges, and we made a lot of mistakes as well. We started in California, abroad, and well, I think 1.5 years ago we said to each other, okay, we're with 10 people now, we have to become smarter and start in our own country and even in our own city. So we started in Rotterdam. And this is what it is about, make cities more livable. And of course, I'm not planting trees, but we can help with data analytics to make better decisions. That's what we're trying to do. And will it change cities or the world? I really think it does. Well, you already heard the 18 million square meters earlier before. We calculated this, we're really proud, thank you. But we can do it for every building. Of course, you can only say it's 18 million square meters if you know every building. So we can really help city planners to use rooftops or public parks or whatever to come up with new ideas and, well, micro implementation. We think we develop intelligence algorithms, and there are basically 3 kinds of algorithms we make, 3 kinds of AI. First is analytics, so you're analyzing what's already there, you recognize patterns, I think you know. Second is predictive AI, so you predict what's gonna happen. It's used a lot in maintenance, for instance for roads and bridges. And the third is, well, you might know fake news. That's generative AI. So you generate images that are not existing at the moment. So you can all be a film star on Facebook and you don't even know. AI is responsible for that. But you can also use it if you want to know what's going on in the city. And there are 3 steps. On the top you see the data collection. You can do it by using a drone. You can use airborne data or space data. For instance, in Europe you have ESA, it's the European Space Agency, and they're providing tons of data and images all over the world. And we can use it in the second step, that's where we come in, to analyze what's going on. So we process every image and recognize what's going on Earth. And in a sense, every pixel on the image tells a story. And if you know the story of the pixel next to the first one, you have a better story. And the third layer is the delivery. Of course, we can provide maps or Excel sheets or whatever. And we provide city officials with this, Rotterdam, Paul, thanks, but also construction agencies or network operators. Well, AI is tough because some people don't like it, but it's pretty smart already. This is a small test for the Ministry of Infrastructure. We had the request, okay, can you, well, pilot a neighborhood in Rotterdam about the green in the garden? Can you give us the percentage by using automated, that's the key word, automated analyses of gardens? And, well, the left one or the right one is the human, and the other way around, the other one is the AI machine. Please give me some hands if you think the left one is the human. Okay, thank you. Who thinks the right one is the human? Okay, I would say 50-50, thanks a lot. The left one was Brian. He understands green, but he needs to pay rent every month. He's not really precise, and I would say, well, in a sense, he's not scalable. He doesn't have a girlfriend, so and he only works 40 hours a week. And then our AI framework is learning what is green. So at the moment, I would say it's a 50-50 deal, Brian versus the machine, but the machine will get smarter in the future. We will provide more examples of a correct analysis, and then it gets smarter. And it's fully scalable. We only need computing power. So we're using Amazon, Microsoft, and Google power to process terabytes of data, terabytes of images, to analyze what's going on. And this is also the reason why AI is only here in 2019. 7 years ago, I couldn't be here, for sure, because the computing power was not good enough, not big enough. So it's really going fast right now. Well, some examples. This is the city of London. They really didn't know how much solar was on the rooftop. And they wanted to know because they said, yeah, we want more solar. We want 5%. Okay, but then you have to know what's already there. And, well, the Dutch are not the only ones with poor registers. Only the Germans have really good ones. And we found 50% more solar in London. And they were sort of happy with it. They know what they have. But you can also think about mobility. If you think you have a satellite who comes over every 2 weeks, and you can process all this data, and you can write algorithms to recognize what's going on, we call this land use classification. So we know what's going on. Is it grass or is it asphalt or whatever? And you also know the distance from one building to another. Then we do what you call a many-to-many analysis. So we give the computer millions of actions, and we calculate, in this picture you see the average walking time to a combination of locations. So, and then you can ask, okay, why should BAM want to know what the average walking time is? Well, if they're planning a new biking path or a new road, they want to know what the impact will be, and we can calculate this up front. Well, green, a lot about green rooftops today, but you can also talk about parks on the ground. And Paris is a nice example. Paris had this policy measure, okay, within 7 minutes, every citizen has to be in a park. Okay, cool. And we applied this on the Rotterdam data. Just, we're a bunch of nerds, so we did it. Paul, it's for free, you can have it. And the average walking time is 5 minutes, so that's pretty good. But there are some places which are not close to green. So you might want to use this for your city planning in the near future. Again, it's free. Most of you are here for the rooftop part. So we did some calculations. This is also a matter of description. But we found the green rooftops in Rotterdam. There were more than were subsidized, so that's good. Some people did it without subsidies. Cool. Yeah, of course, we can calculate the buffering capacity, etc. And because of the satellites coming over in the whole world, or aerial photography, we can do this anywhere. And we thought, wow, this is really cool. We presented this in Barcelona at the Smart City Expo. All cities in the Netherlands and perhaps in Belgium would like to have this. No, till now, Rotterdam is very unique. Yeah, one more thing. At the second slide you saw, we want to give actionable insights. So this means you can do something. We don't want to provide data or analyses. No, do something with it. And here you see a more sophisticated map. Well, not the map itself, but the conclusion I think is pretty cool. Here you see the green zones in Rotterdam. We have a second layer, and that's the temperature. In the summer, at the same moment, in the same city, there can be a delta of 6 to 10 degrees, so that's big. So if it's already, let's say, 33 degrees, it might be 40 at some places. Most of the time, not the most rich places in the city, by the way. But we're talking about concrete mainly, and no trees, and no water. And if you also plug the hospitals, this is another city, by the way, the hospitals and the elderly houses, then you know your hotspots for adding green, just by analyzing data. So, and green can be trees, but can also be green rooftops if there's no place for green. Thanks a lot. My dream, my dream. And is the movie ready? Okay. No movie, then my dream, thank you. My dream is in 19, the Sobel dream is, okay, every rooftop in Rotterdam, we can calculate the individual business case. We can calculate it for every neighborhood. We can calculate it for the whole city, from a climate adaptation perspective, from a energy perspective, and from an environmental impact perspective. And I hope the city will use it. That's it.
Thank you very much. That's what I call a wider perspective. We're going from left to right. I hope you all still see the red thread through all these talks. This is the Rotterdam Rooftop Days 2 years ago, when we thought it would be a good idea to put a tiny house upon a roof, just to see if it was possible and how people would react. It was very funny. Everybody was really crazy about a tiny house. How does it work? Where do you sleep? How does that fold? How can you live in such a tiny house? And we said, okay, but it's on a roof. But that wasn't an issue for people. So, okay, so that's tackled. We can put tiny house on roofs. People are not surprised. We should do more experimenting. Here you see the tiny house on a roof. It's really cute. Then we put rooftop urban sleep spaces on our festival terrain, like this one, and people could actually rent it out for a month. We had every night people that weren't only hipsters, also really normal people just having a night out, and I was very surprised by the whole cuteness of it all. You see in the back also one where people were sleeping, and we needed someone to guard it because it was a whole month and someone had to be a kind of concierge, and we said, okay, so someone had to practically live there for a month. We cannot pay for someone who lives there for a month. But then suddenly we came across someone who said, I have a dream, and my dream is living on a rooftop. Said, well, we cannot make the whole dream come true, but for a month we can do it. She said, okay, I'll do it. She did it. And after a month, she said, it's really great up here in this rooftop. Can I stay longer? Okay, but the rooftop days are finished, and but we can ask the owner. The owner said, yeah, but I need someone too to close the fence every day and to open up. So, and she lived there for a whole year. And she's here to tell about that. So, René Roymans. We'll understand you later. Okay. This is you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is René. Dankjewel, the clicker. And this is, this is me on the rooftop where I lived for a year. This picture was taken not too long ago, actually by someone from Vers Beton. They wrote a really cool article about my time there. This is my little house. I don't know who of you have seen it. Okay, not too many though. Great, you will not see it because it's not there anymore. But you will be on the rooftop later for the opening event. I'll share as much as possible, but there's also so many stories because, you know, a year full of days. So ask me anything later as well. I'm an urban anthropologist. I work at STIPO, which is a team for urban development as well during the day. So besides living on rooftops, I also spend my time on the ground floor. I do get down to that level. And I do also live in public space in different cities. So this was me in Deventer a couple weeks ago, where we explored the ideas and the daily life of a space in the middle of Deventer. So I use this way of living as a job as well. I was just making my presentation still in the first bit of the speakers, and I was very happy to. I don't know, Yin, is this a colleague of yours? I think so, hey? Yeah, it's So this is in Vancouver, actually, where I was living a couple years ago, where I worked in an urban farm, and this is where I met people from Seoul that were visiting a conference in Seattle. I just want to say, life is full of expectations always, and I tend to, you know, bump into these things. I was actually also the only one allowed on the green rooftop that you can see up there, because it's very small and on top of a cob shed, not so very strong. And there's a little goat on there, and there's going to be animals on rooftops everywhere. So yeah, thanks, Léon. I can skip this story because that's kind of what I was hoping to tell here. I was looking for a place to live, but that was not a home, and rooftops came across as something that would be possible for me. This is also around the corner from where I work, so it was very practical and everything. As Léon was saying, it was amazing. During the week, I was there on my own during the nights, and it was just magical. I mean, this whole view is just amazing. Really like it. So the NOS, it's a local news station, came by. They were like, "Wow, what are you doing?" and yes, I did want to have one of the most amazing views in my life. Here you can see me pick some fruit from the garden that's up there as well. And I'm saying, I think we need to look at rooftops as multifunctional spaces. I think we all agree about this. Lots of things have already been said today. That's also making it easy for me. Of course, water, green, energy, food, but also places to stay. And the rooftop that I was living on was a public space, or became a public space after many, many years of people wanting that. And we're doing this too little, these things, but we need to do them more. And by living here, I got in touch with people that were already working on these pilots, also as Léon already explained. And they had this imagination of living on rooftops, smaller houses, but also adding a lot of green. And with the living, having people up there to be able to take care of the green. So not just the sedum that we all know about, but trees and other things. I don't know if anybody's going to live on the museum, but I would volunteer as well. Yeah, again, this has already been said, and me as an urban anthropologist, I came to the team, the Rooftop Villages team, and said, hey, this is great, but I guess the social aspect of people not having cheap or like smaller spaces in the city, they need a place as well, and if we add that to this equation, then we would have an even better concept. And with that plan, yeah, so the rooftop festival ended. And I said, I want to keep living here. So I got a small bouwkeet, yeah, construction site unit that was rebuilt to live in with a compost toilet. I got it on top. I knew exactly when the crane was going to be there. This is something, rooftops make you very smart and creative because you need to be able to not hire a crane for every small thing you want to lift up there. So the rooftop festival left, I went up, and there I was. With the agreement that it would be temporary for about 3 months. The owners of the rooftop were obviously enthusiastic because I could take care of some tasks, but they were also a little bit afraid because this was the first time that something like this happened. As you can see, a lush filled kitchen with things from the rooftop actually. I used hay that was harvested from the grass that lives on the other side of the roof, sort of was a protection around my house, so using a lot of stuff that were around, way more than I imagined. I could even pick strawberries for my breakfast, we had beans and all kinds of things. Also in the rainy season there was still a lot of food available. So that was something that I was not expecting, but that was already in place because this rooftop is special, you'll see it later. It has been taken care of by many, many people that are already working on rooftops for a long time. The space I live in is 8 square meters, so you can imagine I didn't really throw a lot of parties, even though the space around is big, but I had lots of one-on-one dinners, which were great because we could eat from the garden and a special view, of course, so people were eager to come by for a moment like this. Yeah, just in terms of daily things, I have a compost toilet, but for some other things I need to go elsewhere. I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But my water, it's a funny thing, because I was living in public space, I had a water connection at first, and I also have electricity. But the water connection was broken time after time after time, and coming home, you know, to your tiny space, locking the gates, and not being able to get the water or having to repair it, made me realize that I should just forget about it and start getting water by hand. So I've been doing that for a year, which is very interesting. I think it's a great way to realize how much water you're using. This was, again, also something that I needed to be practical about, so it was just something I did. Yeah, so laundry, I would sometimes do outside when the weather was nice, but I would also go to a laundrette. Sometimes I would do it in my pot that I also use for cooking, besides my breakfast. And one other thing that I found a solution to, I started in the summer, which was great, and I could shower with my camping shower, but it started to get colder. I was able to still live there, so I made myself a little package, and on a daily basis, or well, almost every day, I would go to the nearby gym that has an amazing sauna, swimming pool, shower. And I think one time was very special that I was sitting in the sauna with these 2 ladies living in Rotterdam and another guy, and we were talking, and I think, oh my God, they're not realizing that this is my shower time. And the bathhouse that we used to have as a common space to go to for your bathing rituals, I think that's something that should return if we are doing more things on rooftops, because we need those closer. Lots of space. It's a public space, so people are using it for all kinds of things. And with having to close the rooftop, sometimes you bump into people that are making music or having picnics. The sheep on the rooftop are just hilarious because people do all kinds of things with them. People ask questions about the plants. Lots of people think that this is a very badly maintained space. And then I'm there to talk to them and say, hey, it's actually indigenous plants, and they're actually growing here to provide an ecosystem, and it's amazing. You can hear the crickets at night in the summer, and It was also very dry last summer. We needed to add some water here and there. In the winter, it was great. I had a full snow field to myself for a couple days. Yeah, the sheep. So I'll start in the. Don't look here yet. They are moved around by people, which is, I think, a lovely thing. So they're kind of just. This one's looking at the end that's not used yet. Like, what can we do? They're also thrown around. They were also broken and repaired. But the sheep skin, actually, it comes into the conversation now, was actually something that helped me survive throughout the winter because it got really cold. And in the end, unfortunately, the sheep also went flying through my window. And you can laugh about it now. I'm over the damage, but it did hurt me a little bit because it was just living in a public space. You know, it's a tough thing. But yeah, I took one of the sheep for the new rooftop, so we'll see what happens with that. A good story. Living on rooftops means that you see way more things than you would on the ground floor. I guess you're all looking at this like, what is happening? One morning, I got out of my little hut, and there was this crane cutting in the trees, and these guys were also confused because somebody was walking out of this thing that's usually used for construction sites. And they were like, "Oh, hello, is the coffee ready?" I was like, "No, sorry, but what are you guys doing?" And they were cutting the trees, which was interesting because they were blocking a lot of sun. On the one hand, was nice, but on the one hand also sad because the rooftop would be dark pretty early in the afternoon. But then I thought, hey, the garden that we're taking care of on the rooftop can really use some clippings because it's getting drier and drier. They're composting. So I asked them, hey, are you doing this for the municipality? Can we maybe use the clippings? And they were very happy because they didn't need to transport it elsewhere. So they were dropped right in front of the gate and the stairs. We did have to go up a bunch of times, but we managed. So these are also things, when you have this view, you can see what's going on, and it's connecting all these streams in the city that I think make cities better places. As of now, I don't live here anymore. Again, the rooftop festival came, there was a crane. I said, great, I'll use it for 5 minutes. So this Monday, actually, or this Tuesday morning, my house was lifted off. But not just off to the ground floor. It will go up another roof. And I invite you all to come and look. It's not on the roof yet, but we did get one of the glass houses up there, the greenhouses, that is beautifully decorated. I didn't put it in to make you curious so you can come and look. And we're also experimenting with different forms. So this typology of living on rooftops architecture, we're experimenting with that now. We're building this as we speak. That's also why I'm wearing my working pants. So the whole team that I'm working with on Rooftop Villages, that's our name. We're working really hard to provide a great program for the next month. It will be there. Come and ask me anything about this later. But thank you for listening now.
Well, thank you very much. Also for you, I have, of course, the new one. You don't have one yet, and you're in it, of course. And we have a party tonight at your place. Your house is gone, but we have a party there. So that's a nice thing. This whole experiment with living on rooftops is going further. I'm going to ask Martin to come to the front so he can prepare his presentation, and I'm going to introduce him by saying that when we started 5 years ago, the Rooftop Festival, we had some examples. One was Roof Garden Arnhem. Roof Garden Arnhem were the first guys I know in Holland who had a parking garage, and they had for almost a month the first time just things happening there. They were exploring the ways to do with the rooftop, and that was really inspiring. We asked them over here, and we did go there, and we thought we want to do something like that in Rotterdam. Other one was in Linz. In Linz, there is a festival which is called Höhenrausch, and Linz is in Austria. Höhenrausch means a kind of it's it's also the sickness of height, but also the thrill of heights. So when you're in a mountain, then you get a bit of Höhenrausch, but it's a nice feeling. And what they do is they actually invite artists and they ask them to do really great artist things on rooftops. It's amazing. If you ever go there, be there. They wanted to come here, but they opened last week, so they were a bit busy. I hope to get them next year because they do it every 2 years. And the third one, and that's why Martin is here, is a Reside from Prague. And we saw it and we said, okay, these are people who think about the city the same way we do. And it's not necessarily about rooftop, but it is about the way to build the city together with other people. How do you think of making this new city? And so I'm very happy to have Martin Barry here. Can I have a warm welcome?
Thank you, Léon. Thank you. Thanks to Léon and Mariella for having me. It's really nice to be in Rotterdam. I'm here with my wife and my son are here as well. So if my son starts crying, you can blame me. Just throw something at me. Listen, so I'm not going to talk too much about. Hi, Hayden. I'm not going to talk too much about rooftops because it's not actually my expertise, but I come to this discussion as a landscape architect. I spent like 9 years in New York City after I graduated with a degree in history, business, and landscape architecture. And I spent those 9 years developing, or let's say, designing projects on urban brownfields around the world, like 15 countries or something. And at some point during that experience, I took a break and I did a Fulbright fellowship in the Czech Republic, where I had never been in my life. And this is sort of like in the middle of that time. And when I arrived, I thought, like, that was a terrible idea. You know, I should have gone back and stayed in New York. But I needed to do something with my time there because I was teaching just one course. So I started a nonprofit, and that nonprofit is Resite. And that really changed my career and changed my life. And it was kind of, Resite is a way in which I can think about the city and help others think about the city in a way that I think we all care about it, right? We care about, I heard some words like livability. We talk about lovability. You know, let's make a lovable city, not just a livable city. So that's sort of what I'll talk about today. And I think these principles maybe will help us think about how we can activate rooftops in the same way with the same kinds of conversations that we have at Resite. So that's sort of the background. My daily experience is like 24 hours on those three things. I crossed out the CC. That's another company I started, City Crew. That was a failure, so we're kind of closing that one. And that's what happens when you have a lot of ideas. Most of them are bad, so you have to kill them. So we're killing that one now. But Resite is where I spend most of my time. I left my career as a landscape architect, and that's what I do for the nonprofit. Out of that grew a project I'll talk really briefly about at the end, which is called Manifesto. That's a marketplace that I built. And then we're starting a new project now, which is that's the least creative one there. That's the last one, the Martin Barry Group. That one stinks. So let me show you this really quickly. This gives you a good background of what Resite is. It's a rooftop too, right? It's the top of the tram. Mandias. That's one of the first films we made, so I'm proud of showing that one. We're like 7 years old now. What we do is we create events, we create media, we share ideas, and what we talk about doing is making cities lovely. Let's say we sit sort of at the centerpiece of, I think, the four main, let's say, disciplines that I think make the city a good place, a sustainable place. And all these folks have to come together to make a good place. So it's about design and planning, right? It's about the investors, the developers that normally don't want to spend money on the things we really care about in public life in the city. So we have to convince them, or some of you if you're in the audience. We have to convince policymakers, or at least municipal politicians and government politicians who don't really understand these topics so well. And we talk about user experience. It's really us in the city, right? It's how do we use the city? We want to make people feel comfortable in the city. And so we often aim our initiatives at regular citizens. We think like the primary thesis is that cities are failing us, that conventional real estate development's also failing. So what we want to try to do is identify solutions, and those solutions, of course, need to be sustainable and for culturally vibrant cities. That's what we really care about. At Resite, we're trying to inspire. We're doing it with events and media primarily, and we're trying to advise with creativity. It's really clear that we should just leave the city behind in better shape for the next generation. It's not really about me, or it's not even about Hayden, my son, it's about his kids. These things, we plant seeds so that we can see, as a landscape architect, we plant trees that are tiny and we have to see them generations from now when we put them in the ground. That's what we're all about. Like Michael Kimmelman says, we're trying to start an essential conversation about cities that aren't so comfortable, and I'll talk a little bit about that. When we did this, Léon asked me to talk a little bit about how you put together a nonprofit that sort of deals with the city. When I arrived in Prague, there were 58 nonprofits that were aimed at kind of public space, or they're kind of self-proclaimed activists for public space. And I thought, well, we don't want to do that. That seems like a crowded field in a small city. But there was no one connecting those groups, right? So we wanted to be the connector, and that's what we tried to become. And when we started, we were really focused on local initiatives, like in Prague, like on the waterfront. One of the first things I saw was this poor guy when I first arrived in Prague, sitting on this marine bollard. There's no benches on almost the entire waterfront in Prague. What a shame, right? And he's sitting there and he's looking at a Pilsner Urquell advertisement. That's not the place for Pilsner Urquell advertisement. This is public space. So this is the kind of conversation we started. Who owns public space, and what is public space for? It's for us to use, right? It's not just for private use or private advertising. So we kind of initiated these conversations, and it was really focused on the city, and it was more activist than we are now. So we were playing the activist role, but also connecting them. But we wanted to find solutions, so we built benches. We built one on the water. I wouldn't do that again. That's a dangerous initiative. But we also built normal benches. So, these are common activities. We all know, probably you all took part in something like this, right? A community workshop where you built something, or you activated a neighborhood together. This is what we wanted to do. No one really was doing this in Prague when we started, so it was really important that we started this conversation. We built something. We built a pavilion in that first year, and we activated that pavilion with films. This is on the roof of a garage, but obviously it's not. There's still taller buildings there. But we activated this kind of empty piazzetta with Rosie the ballerina. We put films inside. We put discussions. We had breakfast there. Almost 10,000 people came to this first festival. I don't think it's quite as good as the rooftop festival here, but it was exciting for the city. We thought after a couple years of this, we thought that was too local. That first of all, for an American to be in Prague and start actively taking part in local discussions for the city, it was a little politically touchy. So we thought maybe we should back up a little bit. And we made some mistakes. And I thought I didn't really want to get in the ring with all the local activists. Again, we wanted to kind of step aside and curate the ring, maybe put people together that normally wouldn't talk to each other. So we polished all the edges, and we created what we now have is a big conference. We do a conference for about 1,200 people on the city, different topics every year. This is the last one we had. And we try to invite all the world's experts. They wear fancy suits like Henk Ovink. He's a Dutch star. We love Henk. We've had many Dutchmen. We've had Ed Glazer. So we invite all stripes from people, from the kind of neoliberal economist to Saskia Sassen, who my sponsor said, like, please don't invite any more communists to the conference. And this is a tough game to play, right? You're walking down the center and you're trying to kind of bring the conversation together from, Ed Glazer, who's telling you all you need to do is build tall buildings and everyone will have like cheap houses, right? That hasn't worked anywhere, Ed. But then Saskia Sassen comes at it from a completely different perspective. So we're trying to put this together in one ring, and it gets nasty. There's always haters, right? Especially, again, for a foreigner in a foreign country doing this. So people like this, I was I was asked to do this interview about architecture and ethics in architecture, and clearly they're asking me because we're inviting people from all stripes that have all professions or all political parties to take part in the discussion. And this was just like a 20-minute sabotage on our work. So you have to be careful when you do this, right? And you have to be able to kind of weather the storm. It's really tough when you get in critical conversations about the city, and when you put people together that normally wouldn't talk. Like the activists want you to be more active. They want you to take a stronger stand. The developers want you to not to listen to the activists. The politicians, who knows what they want, but like every day changes, so you have to be really flexible with them and basically try to figure out a language that everybody can speak together, because even though you might be from the same culture, that doesn't actually matter that I'm not from Prague. These problems exist in every single city. And that's what we've realized over the last 7 years. Thankfully, some people like us. So a couple of these guys like us and have written about us too. Not all positive. But I think one of the lessons is like, don't only criticize, like resist the urge to criticize and only be an activist, because we have to find positive solutions. So solutions are difficult, right? They're like, it's easy to criticize and just point your finger, but it's really hard to kind of get the group together that doesn't agree and try to find a common compromise. That's really difficult. And when you're putting together an initiative like activating rooftops, a lot on public property or private property, you have to be able to speak the language of all the stakeholders. Resist the cliches, right, of the activist. Try to find solutions. We don't do it alone, of course. And this is part of the challenge, or one of the problems of having an organization that tries to walk the line down the middle. We work with lifestyle brands, we work with politicians, we work with investors, architects, and we work with activists. So it's a tough conversation. We've done things in Lisbon, Berlin, and Prague. We're working on programs in San Francisco, a small program in Hong Kong, and we're ready for more. We were so proud, became so sophisticated, but we won the event of the year last year in the Czech Republic, which was a big deal for us, but that's boring. So we thought, like, I come from the field of I'm a landscape architect. I was always designing and seeing things built. And then for the last few years, I was just talking about that. I wasn't building or designing anything. So we tried to, in the last 2 years, we tried to make it fun. The best thing that we do is a party. We have lots of parties. And that's also really important, because you can bring those folks together. You don't have to discuss and debate the hot topics at a party. You can actually have fun and sort of do it in a more progressive way. We're doing that tonight. I think that's a good thing. We try to change the format instead of just doing these really these polished events with female and male city leaders. We try to change the format, bring these experts. Like, this is Jean Gang, one of the top 100 most influential people now in the world. We put her in the courtyard for everyone to be able to see her and talk to her about her ideas. So who are we if we're walking down the middle? We're the city. If you're having a conversation and you're not including everyone in it, you might as well have a private Facebook group, because you're not really talking about the city. You have to talk to each other if you want to talk about the city. It's more comfortable not to, right? It's more comfortable just to think about the city as a really beautiful enterprise and there's no conflict, but it's not. It's not always like that. We're messy. I talk about us as Recite. We're diverse. We are political. We're savvy, because we have to be to navigate all those different circles. we make a lot of mistakes, and we try to be human. If you don't like that kind of conversation, then it's hard to talk about the city. It's not for you, because the city's messy. It's a diverse place. There's lots of languages that have to be spoken in it. And this is Michael Sorkin's. There should be quotes, but the answer to the city is the city. If you need more public space, you have it, right? It's on the rooftops. And I think to activate it is a really important discussion. We have the spaces we need, we have the solutions, but we're not talking about them properly. So I think the key to the discussion, or the key to one of the things we do, our mission is collaboration and discussion. Just opening the doors and opening the discussions to find better solutions. Find the friction, because that's where the good solutions are. We believe that. To solve the traffic problems in the Prague waterfront or in Lagos, you need to kind of have tough discussions. This discussion in Times Square by Jeanette Sadakan took a decade almost to open up 2 blocks of Times Square in New York to pedestrians. But it was about finding the creative solutions where the friction existed. Same thing with making Paris a smart city. Or we're invited now to take part in a project in Prague to redevelop a building, a state building, which is being reconstructed now. This is the rooftop, so we're being asked for ideas to develop the rooftop. Maybe we'll come back next year with nothing as good as Winy, but something fun, we hope. So one of the things you'll see in Reset is the heart. Why do we use the heart? Because these ideas are the heart of the city. We think the discussion is at the heart of everything that we do, so we play with this image of the heart a lot. We talk too much about these topics. I told you I like to see things built. I wanted to see something different. We didn't see enough happening in Prague, so we said let's build something. We asked one of our partners, a developer, if we could take this piece of land in the center of the city. It's a future development site, but it's been empty for almost 20 years. It's next to the Magistrale Highway. And we wanted to put a food and culture market there. 7 days of culture and food starting last June. And 10 days later, it looked like this, the same exact space. This happened because we had a lot of tough conversations with politicians, investors, architects, people around the city. And we realized that there was an opening to do something important in the center of Prague, and we built it ourselves. So this is Manifesto. This is where I spend most of my time now. And let's watch this, and then we can end. Oh, no. Maybe this will work. So that is Manifesto. Let me try, can I get back to, I've got a couple more slides and I can finish. I don't know where my presentation went. No. No. No, it's a Google slide. So is there another window here? This is always the awkward part. So let me just, maybe we can find it. Manifesto is a food and culture market. Like I said, we're operating 7 days a week. We have 25, let's say, partners that are selling. Oh boy.
Where the black screen was the video. Because there's a Rotterdam, it said reset.
No, that's not it.
Isn't it?
No. No.
It's okay, I can tell you about it. Why don't we all go to Prague now? I can show you. No, it's a 20. We're not a developer, right? So we built something in a way that we could very quickly and relatively cheaply. We put 27 shipping containers on a brownfield, and somehow we figured out to move in 25 tenants, merchants that are making food from Michelin chefs to startups. With 30% of our tenants are entrepreneurs, actually, that never had restaurants or cafes before. So we help them kind of come to market and reach a huge audience. We've seen over about 850,000 people in the last 9 months of operations. So this has been like obviously something the city really needed. The combination of culture, which is young DJs, bands, films, workshops, art installations, and food, which we see as a really good method to bring people together. So since we can't see the photographs, you saw a little bit in the film, you can check it out online. And that's what we're doing now, in addition to the work at Resite that we're doing. So thank you so much for having me. I hope it's helpful to inspire kind of a good discussion about rooftops.
Thank you very much. And of course, as the last speaker, for you also the Rotterdam rooftop book. So these were all the speakers. I'm sorry, I'm not so good in the whole less is more thing. I'm always about many is more. And that's why we have 65 rooftops in this festival. It has also its plus points. But of course, we have the most important thing yet to come. That's the Rooftop Hero. And the Rooftop Hero is our yearly award for, oh, there are flowers. Flowers for a Rooftop Hero. For someone who has done great deeds for rooftops. And I don't do it, this is a very official thing. So, as we are a foundation, we are the Rotterdamse Dakendagen, Stichting Rotterdamse Dakendagen, the Rooftop Festival Foundation. And I want to bring forward one of the members of my board, which is Robert Winkel. Can I get a warm hand for him? And I could let him speak also for 20 minutes. He just delivered the biggest rooftop build-up, how do you say it, of Europe, Northern Europe. Northern Europe, it's just been completed. How many square meters on a rooftop?
30,000 square meter.
30,000 square meters of living space on a rooftop in Rotterdam. And that's not the most interesting person. You have them all this afternoon. But he's very good in awards and well, very good in awards now. And he's a friend, and he's. I'm so happy with my board, which helps me to, because like Martin said, it's not always easy. You have to talk with a lot of different entities in the community, and then a good board is a very good thing to have. And a good prize is also a nice way to end a day. Robert.
Thank you. Léon, I'm very proud and also very, very impressed by what we've seen today. Really incredible. And everybody is actually a hero, I can say that. And it's very nice. But let's keep it short. Last but not least, we can do it. Who will be the next rooftop hero in the Rotterdamse Dakendagen? Do we have an image? We've often awarded people who had the initiative for great rooftops, like the urban farm in The Hague in 2016, or the green roof of the Erasmus Medical Center with its healing environment of 48 trees in 2017. Last year we awarded the more invisible driving forces of the rooftop lobby of the Green Deal green roofs. But what or who will be the hero of 2019? This year the Knowledge Day is going international, so we should focus there. Of course, the internationally renowned architect Winy Maas, who was mentioned a lot, is a rooftop hero. With his amazing rooftop designs, visions for the future and ability to bring so many people to a rooftop. But does he need encouragement or an award? No, no. He's already gone, so... The Dakakker is, after all those years, without a doubt, still the most international famous Rotterdam rooftop, so maybe we should award driving force Emiel van Rinsum, or Todd Binder, he's there, or and Rob Luik, who made the Dakakker technically possible. Or maybe we should award Paul van Roosmalen and Evelien Bronswijk for their relentless effort to spread the Rotterdam rooftop gospel all over the world. Maybe. Or rooftop doctor Friso Kramer, we've seen here, who greened so many rooftops and has just made his first international step with his New York office to spread the Dutch wetland principle with nice meals all over the world. Yes, all these people are rooftop heroes. And they were on our shortlist. But the winner is someone, and maybe when I tell this, people maybe already know. The winner is someone who for a few years ago probably didn't even know what a rooftop was. Interesting. Or what the potential could be. But when he saw the potential, he didn't see it only for himself, but for his own city. He saw the potential in international cooperation. When all the cities who are busy with rooftop events and rooftop visions would join in a European rooftop network, we could be bigger than the sum of all. We can exchange experience, knowledge, and program. That's what we're doing. But there's more. So he invited people who are busy with rooftop events and visions of this city, of course, to let himself and his city be inspired, but also to inspire each other and lay the basis for this rooftop network. And he's now busy trying to get it founded. And in the 3 weeks, there will be a first rooftop festival with the programming from different European partners. We think, no, I'm sure you are all invited. The board of the Rotterdamse Dakendagen Foundations is proud to announce that the award of the Rooftop Hero 2019 will go to the head of culture of the city of Faro, Portugal, and the head of Azoteias Rooftop Festival, Bruno Inácio.
Everybody has a speech here. You don't have a speech? No. It's. Would you like to say something? As a.
Can I invite my colleagues to come here? Because
Yeah.
I work with an organization. I'm not doing this alone. So, hello everyone. I was the guy in the yellow jacket back there. That was prepared, as you imagined, because the photo has like 19 hours or something. Can I call my colleagues, Sophia, Paul, and Gilles, around? So can they join me, please? Because I work in an organization. I'm probably going to give the flowers to Sophie because it's... Okay. So Paul is...
There's a special pin. We have a really small award except flowers.
Okay.
And it says Dakheld, which is Dutch for rooftop hero.
Okay, thank you. So, Paul is the vice president of municipality, and Sophie is the, how do you say it? Elderman. It always seems like an old man, but it's Elderman from the urban. I'll tell the short story of it because I just started working with them about 8 or 9 months ago, and I was just talking with Paul one day and telling me, I was just looking up a few days ago, and it seemed nice to have something doing on the rooftops. It was just happened like this. And yes, I didn't know what was rooftops a few months ago. And so I told them we should do like a rooftop festival or thing, because this could be interesting not only for the gin tonic, because it's nice to have a gin tonic in rooftops, but also for the other purpose that could go around this speech. And then he surprisingly told me, yeah, that's a good idea. And you do not expect that from your boss. You expect that, no, that's too expensive, shut up and do what you have to do. And he endorsed it, and everyone endorsed it. And then we just started sending emails and calls. And people started to get interested, and then we didn't have a festival, we didn't have a rooftop policy, so what we decided to make? A European rooftop meeting, of course. And we are a small city, of course, of 60,000 people in the south of Europe. But then I told them, let's ask some people. I was pretty confident that no one will go there, but I told them they will come. And I told, when I was speaking with each other, I was telling everyone already confirmed. No one had confirmed, of course. And I was talking to Milan, and there are some Milan around here, so yeah. And I was saying, oh, of course, Amsterdam is coming, Rotterdam is coming, and I didn't know that anyone was coming, but they went. It was a pretty, very amazing 2 days, and I think we're starting something. And I have to thank everyone, and we have to thank you all, because when we started this, we were very cultural focused. But our minds are totally open to new realities right now, and this day has been amazing. So thank you very much for having us and for this. We're not worth it, but thank you.
You're worth it. Okay, so now I think everybody is dried up and needs a drink. There are drinks downstairs. I can explain why, but the doors to the terrace cannot open. So everybody's going to ask that. It's not possible. But if you want to go outside, also from 5 o'clock, we can go to the Luchtpark Hofbogen at 18:30. There's an opening there. If you have your ticket still from this event, you can just walk in there, and else I will talk you in or something. I'll be around. Next Knowledge Day, June 5, 2020, which is very important. And of course, our sponsors. I thank you very much for being here in such a lovely audience. Till next year.